welcome to episode 3 and episode 9 of Star Trek Iskandar, the Politics of Peace, a peace conference in space, hosted by the Federation, attended by many, and I'm sure attended by some people that people would rather were not attending. We are the crew of the Iskandar. We hot seat GM, and I am a player and a GM, but currently just a GM because I have one character who's on holiday in Riser and another character who's under suspicion of sabotage by no one. In the meantime, of course, if you have been here before, then you know I was going to say about the series of helps and hinders, and then I looked into the chat and I saw the model railway man had helped in order to help me, but because I read it, I got distracted. So a bit of an own goal there. But I feel the model railway man's support for me. He has manifested support. Therefore, I will continue. This is a game where you can impact what is going on in the plot. And by that, I mean there is a series of minor helps and hinders for which you can spend trash bags, which you get by just hanging out in the chat, or cash bags that you get for, capitalism, crimes, you find it in the street, whatever, however money comes your way. Normally we have helps and hinders that affect the plot as they are sort of running throughout the game. However, this adventure, it's slightly different because there is a lot of delicate, interconnected political balancing going on. And so whenever you help, I will add a few more points or good effects that are happening to the allies of the Federation or the Federation themselves. And every hinder will aid the enemies of whatever is going on behind the scenes. I can't tell you who that is because that's the point about a peace conference, is you don't know who your enemies are all the time. Moderate helps and hinders and major helps and hinders will operate just the same. More information about that is down below. Should you perform a help or hinder, because I will be GMing and we can't all guarantee that we are watching the chat, just mention it in the chat and we'll go, yeah. No, that's all. Great, at us if you wish. We like to be added. Aside from that, hi, extends. Iskandar, Politics Peace, Helps and Hinders. Hi again. I have it on good authority that Lou has started a watch party, which is quite excited, and Tin Hat has decided that he's going to draw the ire of all of the fans of the next generation, which is very exciting. Kath, you are muted.
All those deaths at Wolf 359 can't be Picard's fault because Wolf 359 was an inside job.
As we all know, that
right.
The best captain, the captain that we must all aspire to be, is Gabriel Lorca. Therefore, I will brook no more complaints. And Jason Isaacs with a southern accent. Anyway.
Oh, of course, Jason Isaacs is your type. I don't know if she's sounding. I can't hear her voice. But I don't know if she's sounding indignant or oh duh, because it could have been either.
I have never been called out by something so correct in my entire life. This is outrageous. Anyway, much time has elapsed, and I am going to open my tabs of my thing with the typing, and I'm reading, and I'm also talking, which is always very dangerous because there's always a risk that I'll read what was in my brain while I was reading. So,
don't unpick that one.
Nothing. Keep going. Keep going.
When we last, why have you done this, Michael? Michael!
I'll kill you.
When we last saw the crew of the Iskandar, they were scattered out through the conference halls, managing a whole series of diplomatic incidents, starting from the incidents used in an entirely neutral sense, because starting on one end, we had Lieutenant Casey, who had been adopted wholeheartedly by a party of Klingons. And he was just very glad that he was in a modern society where he can I'm sure that the hangover cures are much more effective than the ones we have now, all the way down to Lieutenant Vance, who had an unfortunate run-in with a Cardassian of his acquaintance, and Lieutenant Zal, who had an unfortunate run-in with an Andorian of his acquaintance.
Very different energy.
Different energy, different emphasis on the word. But most importantly, that the Cardassians had gathered Lieutenant Vance, Lieutenant Cantos, and Lieutenant Zal into a secret meeting. Oh, yes, Lieutenant Strange. Into a secret meeting to discuss the idea that someone is attempting to sabotage the conference, and that they found a device that was designed to shut down their life support system in their quarters. They currently have suspicions that there is a spy aboard the USS Iskandar, and although they have no proof, their suspicions lay with Lieutenant Commander Talandra, the first officer of the Iskandar. Of course, Captain Athan considered their accusation and has summarily yeeted it forth. For every captain requires their emotional support Vulcan, and but the truth remains that they have said that they have proof of a spy aboard the Iskandar, and whatever has occurred has certainly been funky. The death of a diplomat who was coming to give a talk at the conference, potentially in Cardassian space, has led to a lot of tensions at this conference, and no one quite knows what to do next. The lead diplomat for the Federation, Captain Killian Foster, has been sequestered with a number of the diplomatic corps and various representatives of other governments, quite taken off the board as a player for diplomacy, since he is trying to put out an awful lot of fires at the moment, leaving the day-to-day politics of the conference to Captain Athan. The camera pans up, and we see Captain Athan flanked by Lieutenant Cantos, Lieutenant Vance, and did we say Lieutenant Zal?
Yeah, Zal's there.
I assume Zal is there as a Starfleet officer.
Yes.
Yes.
Uniform and everything.
Yes, though, like Athan will have directly communicated to Zal, like written, because she's not having this as a conversation. God. But it will be, if he will be more invited there if he would like to be present at the arrival of the Corvus, as that, so he can get the information firsthand. He is, of course, permitted to, but is under no professional obligations with the arrival.
I believe Zal's response to that, again written, if that is Athan's preference at this stage, will be along the lines of, I will be there on an official and Starfleet capacity. I will, if I find my duties in conflict with my personal situation, remove myself, though that is unlikely to occur.
I just think Athan's probably not going to touch that for the sake of the scene.
Yeah, fine.
It's like literally the opposite of what I was trying to achieve here. But you go with emotional repression, Andorian.
Does she look at Zal and look at Talandra and look at Zal and go, "No wonder you're friends."
Mm.
That was called a cough dab, and was very important to my people. In the meantime, yes, the camera pans up, and we also see the crew. Well, the equivalent, we can assume, of the crew of the Tishra, the Andorian vessel who raced ahead to bring the news of what had happened as they were in the area, in the very broadest sense of the term, led, of course, by Captain Schmerett, Zal's husband.
I thought it was Captain O'Tal.
His first name is O'Tal.
Oh no.
O'Tal Schmerett.
Unless you're on first name terms with him.
Oof.
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 Gonna make this more calm.
I certainly
reveal.
aren't.
Big reveal there. And he and Zal are quite obviously not making eye contact, because that would be gross. as the ship has been docked. I imagine that Lieutenant Strange has been off ensuring that the docking goes ahead correctly. And the doors open and out steps a Starfleet captain. She is a Bolian, and she is flanked by she has beside her a human with also a woman with blonde hair. And she steps out to greet Captain Athan as the sort of ranking Starfleet representative here. Captain Athan, Captain Grex of the USS Corvus.
Captain, it's good to meet you at last. I hope you and your crew are doing well under the circumstances.
Under the circumstances, of course. And we are sorry that we could not come to relieve you sooner.
That's quite all right. We have been making do here. I'm just glad that you've arrived. Can you tell us what happened, Captain?
I think perhaps it would be best if we gathered somewhere not the
Of course,
hangar bay.
please.
And she'll turn to Captain Chimeric and say, "You are welcome to inspect our ship if it is with your customs, Captain." And he shakes the hand and goes, "It won't be necessary." And you all move through to a place where you can sit and be. And Captain Grex sits. She's got quite a sort of precise mannerism about her, and she's very clearly thinking about her words very carefully. Sorry that we do not have more information for you. We were accompanying the Justicar and a number of his staff. He expressed an interest to the Cardassian High Command to see a number of their outposts, as part of his speech was about the demilitarized zone between Cardassian and Federation space. I believe he wished to get a better understanding. When he went down onto the moon's surface, he was accompanied by a number of Starfleet officers and Cardassian officers, led by my first officer, Commander Grayling. Commander Grayling has been given they've poured a water or whatever is on the table, and is clearly sort of looking at the water and very deliberately not looking at any of the Andorians in the room. During which time a group of unknown assailants, it seems, were either already on the moon or had arrived shortly after the Cardassian and Federation vessels were there. We as of yet are not aware of their intentions. Commander Grayling can explain what happened at the time, if that is of particular interest. But as it stands at the moment, we have been attempting to investigate this other ship as best we can while getting here quickly. And we are quite at a loss as to whether their presence there was scavenging, hiding, or sabotage and assassination.
I'd be quite happy to hear Commander Grayling's retelling. We never know who owns what pieces of what puzzles until we can hear the full story.
Go ahead, Commander. It was just a routine check, Captain, same as all of the other places we'd been to. The Justicar wanted to go down, be given the tour by the Cardassians, and return to the ship. This place was a warehouse or a junkyard. I don't know. We didn't see another ship when we landed. We scanned for another ship. We did all the standard security procedures. We touched down. We were walking through there was a big warehouse room with an arm that comes to collect items, and then just out of the dark there were these people, humans, not Starfleet, fair-haired, nondescript though, just people. They weren't particularly well armed. I held them at phaser point. I demanded to know what they were doing there. The Cardassians were escalating somewhat. I mean, I didn't want to see innocent blood get spilled. It was something of a standoff. One of them set off some sort of device. Horrible. No one was injured, but it threw the whole place into chaos. And I had it in my head that I needed to stun the ringleader, the main man. He had a disruptor pistol. And it just all happened so fast. One minute I was training my phaser on this man, and then he was firing, and I thought he was firing at me. And I remember freezing, thinking I'd been shot, and then no pain came, and I didn't understand. I thought I was in shock. He shot the Justicar. I didn't realize straight away because he stayed on his feet. He didn't cry out. And then I saw the attacker running, and just as I was going to give chase, I realized what had happened, and I had to make a choice. I took the Justicar back to the Corvus. There was nothing the doctor could do. I don't think he was alive when we beamed back up.
Thank you, Commander. Do we have any access to any security records or anything from this facility? Or is there any possibility the Cardassians can? I understand this may have been a slightly too rundown sort of place for that.
I have been attempting to liaise with Captain Reckon, who was our Gull Reckon, forgive me, who was our liaison, who has been very helpful and promised to look into the secure records at the facility. But as you say, they had believed the facility long since abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
It was certainly not capable of the ordnances that were let off by the unknown humans, which leads us to believe that they brought the weapons there themselves, which adds some sort of cloudiness to their motive for me.
I see the likelihood either of scavenging, attempting to settle some sort of establish some sort of permanent presence on the moon, be it surveillance or something slightly larger than that. Is there any chance of political assassination, do you think?
I have given it some thought. Oh my God, shut up.
And I'd like to say that this killer sounds like they were exceptionally smart, cunning, and sexy.
You know what? I think they were very sexy, just the sexiest. I turned the matter over and over in my mind, Captain Athan. The Cardassians have shown me a manifest of the items that were kept at this place, and of course it has been abandoned for so long, who can fully say, but there should be nothing there that they were attempting to scavenge. It does not seem to be worth the risk.
Mm.
And then in particular, given the motives of the people of the area, it does not seem worth the risk that they would fire on the Federation.
Just so that we're on the same page, what do you mean by the motives of the people in the area?
Well, given the long and fraught history between the citizens of the Federation who have lived on the edge of Cardassian space, it has been several generations of tension at least.
No, I concur, Captain. I just wanted to be clear what you were driving at.
Mm.
However, once you say it would be an exceptionally risky scavenging strike, you're not. Then that also means that it's an exceptionally risky political assassination, or also an exceptionally risky attempt at a surveillance outpost. We'll take a look at the location based on our astrometrics display. We are going to need some Cardassian cooperation in this to try to consider any strategic value of that location, whether or not it's worth anyone wanting to attempt to set up a surveillance op there. We can only do so much investigation from here, and that is not the purpose of our reasoning here, but I am mindful, obviously, of the impact, not just the impact this will have on this conference, but the risk, the potential further threat to the conference that may have been intended.
Starfleet has scrambled a number of vessels to go and begin initial examination, but the Cardassians are being somewhat reticent to allow broad access to the area. They have been cooperative. They understand the severity of the death of a Federation representative on their soil, but I think for them this is also a matter of bruised ego.
Well, our ego is a little bit bruised on this matter as well. I will speak with Prime Lector Kell, unless you can make any recommendations of any, if say this Gull Reckon is someone you found particularly helpful, but I will need both helpful and with authority.
I'm happy to put you in touch with Gull Reckon as the ranking Cardassian who was on site, but I have found him to be very bureaucratic.
That is unfortunate then. Then I will speak with the Prime Lector.
Can I ask something?
Please return.
Of course.
You say this world that you stopped on, basically deserted, nothing there. Why did the Jessica want to stop there? And was it something that was pre-scheduled? I'm trying to work out how, if this was an assassination, then that requires planning. How much opportunity would there have been for such a thing to be planned?
That she will glance at Chimerit, who's clearly there but not Starfleet, just to indicate with Athan that she's allowed to speculate. But as the Justicar was intending to give an address regarding the tensions on the border, he was interested in visiting the various outposts that were once held by the Cardassian military and have been long since abandoned owing to significant de-escalating of their military presence. It would be quite impossible for him to attend on every colony or outpost. Therefore, the plot was chosen by, I believe, a combination of Gull Reckon, the Cardassian military themselves, who allowed access to the Gull, and As far as I am aware, there were a few that he was especially interested in, but I have no reason to think that this was one of them.
So, in fact, this was something of a last-minute stop-off. In this specific location.
Regarding premeditation, the only people who would have known that we were stopping at that location more than perhaps 3 days in advance would have been Cardassian High Command, Gulrakin, and perhaps his crew, and the senior staff of the Corvus.
Okay. That rather limits these ways that the information could get out.
Why?
Were this a pre-planned assassination attempt rather than simply opportunistic?
Agreed. Why then did the just... Do you have any... If there were other locations which had been suggested...
Was this maybe en route to somewhere else?
Yes, why did the Justicar pick this one?
I cannot say whether this was one of the suggested locations.
Right.
It was a route that was planned by the Justicar, and we received the route so that we could
I understand.
scope it.
Very well. So, a few days.
Limited window.
If you're suspecting that these were locals who were responsible, so to speak, people from the old DMV.
Their vessel was
DMZ.
not advanced.
DMZ.
The DMV is a terrible, terrible place. People come out of there changed. Their vessel was not advanced.
Very well.
Okay. That also means slower, which
Yes.
again narrows things down a bit.
However, at this point, I think it's premature for us to start extrapolating based upon time to travel there, but it's worth bearing in mind.
Oh, of course.
No, it's a good question, Lieutenant. Thank you, Captain, Commander. My Chief of Security would certainly appreciate any more assistance of the personnel that you have on the Corvus for lending to our security endeavors here. But other than that, I encourage any officers who need to take some time. You've been through a difficult mission.
Of course, but you have also been shouldering great burdens here, and although we have all had difficulties, it is our responsibility to come and ensure the security of this conference, Captain. If Lieutenant Vance wishes to liaise with Commander Grayling and my Chief of Security, Lieutenant Yang, then we can begin working on a new schedule for coordination.
Very good, Captain. I will then leave it all in your hands. She also gestures to answer that. Mm-hmm.
There is also one slightly less pressing, given the circumstances, matter, Captain.
Please.
On the way to the conference, I received a communique from Admiral Traister regarding the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Given that the unfortunate death of Ambassador Thorinos leaves a gap in the schedule, he has requested that you give the address in his stead.
Remind me exactly at what point in the conference that was to take place.
On the penultimate day.
Very good. Thank you for passing that on.
I believe it does not have to be on the same topic, but...
Thank you, Captain. I'll make sure I start planning on that.
Of course. Now I understand, Captain Chimerit, you wish to observe. And he stands up with the other crew of the Tisha and goes, Yes. I should prepare to take him back to Andor.
Athan does sort of like glance at Zal at that. She doesn't step in, but insofar as one can convey with just a glance of a "you are free to do what you damn well please," that is it's a you can do what you want kind of look.
Cantus also glances over at Zal, but it's more of a "you okay, buddy?" sort of look.
With that glance, Zal will step forward. May I join?
Captain Grex looks obviously like, yes, of course.
King,
yes.
Captain, I'm afraid.
Captain Chimera stares for a second longer than is comfortable. His antennae are just very still. If you wish.
Thank you. And then I'll fall in step.
Leaving the crew of the Iskandar as they are alone in this room. And if Vance has gone with Grayling, then leaving Athan and Kantos alone in this room.
So this is going to make everything endlessly worse.
Quite. Do we reckon it's linked to... Hang on. OC check. Does Kantos know about the Salandra thing? I can't remember if they've been told that.
I don't think Kantos has. No.
No.
The information was only the people at the meeting, and then those people told Athan, who then
He was
told
not told any.
Salandra, because
Yeah,
technically speaking, there is still the risk of a spy.
Maybe
And
it's
also
Adina.
And also because Adina would be the person who should be the spy because they are dashing.
It's just too high a risk. It's too high a risk.
And also you should never tell Lieutenant Casey because, Casey will go through her hands.
He's drunk.
That's my mum.
Cool. Yeah, this does make everything more complicated, but
We are going to need some more of the cooperation from the Cardassians to be able to get to the bottom of this. I fear that I am going to have to be set to ruffle some feathers, Lieutenant.
Oh?
Cardassian feathers. Well, politically, they're rather on the back foot if one of our ambassadors got shot.
On their turf.
With their own officers present. They can be bullshit all they like about not wanting Starfleet to come and crawl all over that place. But then they can.
But if they're not looking after it properly, then
if they are not an open book, they don't have much of a leg to stand on. Especially, there are a lot of ways I can. It's going to sound churlish to say play this, but there are a lot of ways in which I can impress upon them the severity of this situation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
they might want to, swing a bit and try and, look down on us. But when it comes to something actually serious, I doubt they're going to want to rile the Federation that much. And the death of an ambassador is nothing if not serious.
It's honestly one of the most serious possible diplomatic incidents that could happen. It's frankly a disaster for them. And the only reason I haven't pushed it is because heavens knew if I pushed it, then it would somehow turn out to have been Starfleet's gaffe before I had all of the information.
Yeah.
But that does not appear to be the case. Or certainly not enough of the case. They can spin it all they like, but they don't have enough. However, that means I fear, Lieutenant,
there's a lot of information we need, I think.
There is a lot of information we need, but I have enough to move now to push them to help us get that information.
Oh, yeah. They'll want to know as much as we do. Oh, this has happened.
I am going to have to put my attention, I fear, onto the Cardassians in this. I would appreciate it. If you have any more positive relations there, keep your ear to the ground, but I've also made some effort at getting the Klingons to help with that. I'm not asking you to keep an eye on literally everything else.
Just quite a
But
lot of everything else.
pretty much everything else. I would like.
Okay.
I don't want to miss something because I'm focusing on the Cardassians. Maybe you should meet that Vorta. They're awful, but I don't think they'll know what to do with you.
Fair enough, Captain.
Unless the Romulans get involved, I think it's best that we don't do anything. You know, if you move, they might. If we don't move near them, they might not spot us. And I'd frankly much rather not have the Romulans crawling all over this business.
No, we definitely don't want that, because that will just make, I think, basically every aspect of this worse.
Yes. So I'm worried about the Dominion. I'm worried about our own other Federation representatives, their involvement in this. We want to make sure that people feel like they are safe, like nothing is going wrong. And I don't mean that as a minor keep people happy issue. Also, on
Do
that
you want
note,
me to? Do you want me to try and steer the Romulans and that Vorta off this topic?
if
If I get talking?
yes, and obviously yes, I don't need to tell you to don't accidentally draw attention to the topic by trying to not draw attention to the topic, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. There are enough other things happening at this conference that I'm sure there are alternative topics of conversation that they can be
Right.
steered towards.
Speaking of this, the commander brought something to me. I have no idea. Kath has no idea if we've already had this conversation, but I don't think we have. So,
Well, it depends what this is.
the commander brought to me concerns. The Betazoid representatives had spoken that they were sensing that there is a lot of, and this is, bear with me, that there is a lot of tension at this conference. Now, these are diplomatic representatives
Betazoids
from...
and stating the blindingly obvious, shocker.
Yes. However, I am taking this as diplomatic experts who have thought that this is worthy of note. A lot of things seem to be going... Tensions are unusually high, even under the stakes. And I don't know if this means that something is going on, but I would appreciate your read on people, Lieutenant, to try to see if you think, frankly, if there's anything in it.
Okay.
If you think that people are acting out of sorts, if people are being shorter than they should be, if people are... I feel like everyone's being less reasonable than they should be, but frankly, my perspective is... The first rule of diplomacy is I have to accept that everyone has different perspectives to me.
The only thing I've seen so far is clashes between the Bajorans and the Cardassians, which is nothing that anybody would be surprised about.
No.
And it doesn't seem to be worse than I would have expected.
In fact, yes, if you could keep an eye on the Bajorans, that would be helpful. Just try to steer them elsewhere. For the moment, they don't appear to be a particular factor in this murder case, and I don't think that their involvement is going to help.
No, if we do get more flare-ups between the Bajorans and the Cardassians, whilst you're trying to deal with the Cardassians, that's going to distract them from being involved in dealing with this, because I would be willing to bet that they'll be much more vocal about things to do with the Bajorans than about this.
The trick with the Cardassians is that I can't push them so far that they get so horrendously affronted about all insults to their pride,
They
they
just clam up and
revert
don't say anything.
20 years and go, how are you possibly inferring that we cannot maintain control of us and our people? And the problem is that the Bajorans getting bullshit at them
all up.
is much likely to make them, and also make them all team up. Whereas I have to trust that I know that there are individuals among these Cardassians, there have to be, who are not as focused as the rest.
Yeah. Let's not have them clam up and close ranks.
Exactly. Very good.
Okay.
So, keep me posted, Lieutenant.
Will do.
Yes, if you just see anything out of the ordinary. Obviously, you know to say that, but I have specific concerns. So
I shall keep an eye, Captain.
very good.
And at that point, they stand up and go and mingle and distractingly seduce people.
It's the best idea I've ever had.
Best use of your helm officers.
What's that, Captain? Be a distraction.
Go deal with that fucking water for me.
God.
So pretty.
I don't want to.
The scene changes to Lieutenant Casey sat up on the sat up on the edge of a sick bay examination table. It is very Spartan compared to the fairly state-of-the-art equipment the Iskandar has. And the scene opens on a slow pull-out from him, and then the familiar of a hyper spray into his neck, and not a Starfleet doctor, definitely a civilian doctor who is looking at him. They are, as the camera pans around, they are a betazoid. They have, big, dark, whiteless eyes, and they are looking at him with a look of, there's always one.
Have you ever held a bat'leth before?
Yes. Can't say that I ever have, but
Extraordinarily heavy.
Lieutenant Casey, what have we learned from this experience?
I'm not entirely sure.
Well, then I shall tell you. We have learned that we are not a Klingon. We do not imbibe our body weight in blood wine.
Mm-hmm.
We do not partake in, what did you call it?
Blood rain.
The blood rain.
The blood rain.
And perhaps today we stick to synthahol.
I welcome that. Yes, that should be. Oh.
It's all right. You're a junior officer. It happens to the best of us.
Does it?
Well, I've certainly seen far worse.
Oh, good.
At the very least, you didn't headbutt anyone, so I'm not having to deal a fractured skull.
No. Good. Great.
Me. You feeling lightheaded still?
It's fading.
Keep an eye on it for me.
I shall. Thank you for your services.
Of course.
Stand up. Leave.
You are, as you are human, I might suggest going to get a hearty breakfast. The effects are entirely psychosomatic, but it'll make you feel better.
Psychosomatic is better than nothing, I suppose.
The betazoid gives you a look like, bitch, I'm a betazoid.
I slump, wet and sorry, out of this place.
Why is he wet?
Like,
where's the theme today of binning betazoids?
It is the next.
Betazoids can get in the bin. What can I say?
It is the next day, so hopefully he has changed clothes.
He's wet in spirit.
And we see him sat in the sort of the makeshift officer's mess, just eating some breakfast and feeling sorry for himself. And it's about the time that Lieutenant Strange passes the door on his way from dealing with the arrival of the Corvus, and does that thing where he's walking, he's thinking, and then he stops and doubles back and recognizes
Hang on, that was my boyfriend.
Recognizes the outline of his boyfriend.
And he will walk over to where Sam is slipped into his breakfast. Morning.
Adam, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I've had a terrible 24 hours.
Define terrible.
I think you saw some of it. It's very hazy, but
I did see some of it. I did see the point where you were on what I think was probably your second game of Blood Rain.
second competitive game. There were practice rounds.
Oh. Oh dear.
I shan't do it again.
I certainly don't recommend playing it that frequently. I'd at least give it a few weeks before you next have a game of it.
The captain told me to slosh, but they figured it out. They knew I was faking.
There's a technique to it.
How does everyone know this technique but me? Anyway, I've had quite enough Klingon diplomacy, I think, for one conference. Is there anything exciting happening elsewhere?
Well, a wall blew out in the canteen yesterday.
That's very bad.
That it is bad. Still not entirely sure what happened to make the wall blow out, to be honest.
Is it something you want help looking into?
Potentially, yeah. So all we managed to find by way of the head. So yeah, the pipes behind the walls with the hydraulics, and you know all the fail-safes that you normally have in place, such that if one of the valves isn't going, that's fine. The rest of the system can pick it up. None of the fail-safes kicked in. And so you just got this build-up of pressure, and then suddenly pipe bursts, wall blows out.
Okay.
And pipe bursts enough that the wall blows out.
Mm-hmm.
Which shouldn't happen.
No.
It shouldn't be able to happen.
Well, able is what you're suggesting. There is either a 1,000,000 to 1 chance that the circumstances happen to be just so that the wall did blow out, or some degree of sabotage. Do you know who was maintaining the pipes prior to our arrival?
Nothing that we've found so far suggests anything untoward with specifically the maintenance of the pipes, but we've only just started looking into it. So maybe it's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance, maybe it's not.
Perhaps. Well, if I can be of any help, I'm going to be actively avoiding diplomacy for at least the better part of the morning.
Lieutenant Strange to habitation. Lieutenant Strange to habitation.
I better go.
I'm around if you need me, apart from for the next 10 minutes, which is going to be solely dedicated
I think yes. You need that. He points at the breakfast. You need that, I think, more than I could need you for anything.
If that changes, let me know.
I think something would have to go drastically wrong for me to need help more than you need that breakfast, Sam. And he'll lean over, kiss Casey on the forehead, and then go off to whatever it is that he's been called away to habitation for.
It sounds like the conference is going very well overall, given that there's only one malfunctioning wall of that.
Like, I did say the wall exploded.
I'm glad to know
That's-
that no one suspects my mum of treason.
This fried bread is delicious.
Plus,
Bacon.
plus more the savagest burn of all that your boyfriend goes, you are so drunk that even though I love you and you are one of the finest minds of your generation, I do not need your company more than you need fried food.
I feel it's on brand still for occasionally Adam to be like, no, I don't need you to help me do my fucking job.
Yeah. Do you need help? No, I'm a chief engineer. Right?
I'm a chief engineer, and you are a hungover boy.
You are you are a hungover not ensign.
I know we don't do this anymore, but this is my fucking job.
So Casey is sat sort of finishing up his breakfast. Like despite the fact that there's less food on the plate and the angles changed, he's still sort of very gently kind of leaning against the wall, sipping a synth ale or something, just and then a figure will sit down in front of him, and sort of his eyes rake up and he sees the sort of the robe and the robed figure of Bajoran Vedic, and it is Vedic Ariel who is sat opposite very seriously and with great purpose, and she's looking at you with a traditional sort of piercing look.
Good morning.
Lieutenant Casey,
Yes.
you're not what I expected.
That's devastating in its own way. I apologize. I'm recovering.
Recovering?
Klingons.
Oh no, I meant I thought you'd be older.
Oh! Ah! I thought you were commenting on the fact I'm mildly hungover. No, I'm... Oh. So you've heard of me?
Well, yes, you've submitted a number of essays to the Starfleet Scientific Corps.
I have. Yes. You have me at a slight disadvantage. Ensign Samuel Casey. No, Lieutenant Samuel Casey.
Vedek Ariel.
Oh, it's an honor, Vedic.
Well, I speak with the voice of the Kai at the moment, so it's perhaps more of an honor than it should be normally. Nevertheless, I've read some of your papers. You have very interesting thoughts.
Thank you. Which papers in particular?
Piece of absolute garbage. Right, we're going on a break. Lovely to thanks for
Got a break.
this.
Iskandar's over forever.
I will accept she names some.
She names some.
Casey gatekeeps.
Yeah. Oh, that one. Oh, you're not a real fan.
Get out.
Oh, you like science? Name all of the atoms.
I'm truly grateful that you know my work.
I guess it does make sense, actually, your relative age and inexperience, because your thoughts are brilliant, but you don't always express yourself the most eloquently.
No, I'm still learning the short way around a long sentence, as my mother's put it.
That's a very good way of putting it. It's all right. You can learn eloquence. You can't learn to be naturally gifted at science.
I suppose not. That's very encouraging of you to say.
Anyway, I came to speak to you because I have some concerns that there are devices in our living quarters.
Devices?
Yeah.
What kind of devices?
We think we are being spied upon.
I see.
The First Minister in particular is concerned about Cardassian influence.
I'm happy to do some sensor sweeps if that will help.
I would like it very much to be not on the record that I have asked you this.
I see.
I understand that this conference is about peace, which is why I do not wish to have it on record that we suspected the Cardassians. We have our reasons, but we would like them very much to believe that we are still all friends here. It would not do well for the purposes of the conference.
I fully understand, and for the sake of granting peace of mind, I'll be more than happy to be discreet in this matter. I do, after all, kind of want a bit of a quiet morning away from the hustle and bustle, as it were.
Yes, you were very drunk yesterday.
I'm so sorry you saw it. It's not something I do ever in my life before.
I could tell. I believe the human phrase is a lightweight.
I believe lightweight will be putting it mildly.
Quite. Well, if it helps in the slightest, I haven't seen First Minister cry and laugh like that for some time.
So long as it's had some positive effect somewhere, I suppose. But still, yes, I'm more than happy to help you in these concerns that you've raised.
Thank you. Perhaps it will do something for your ego to be able to show your skills as well as your dancing talents.
I didn't think my ego needed anything until you mentioned my dancing, and I think actually, yes, it does.
She leads you out of the mess. Walking with all the confidence of someone who knows that she's fully in charge of this conversation.
I'd just like to butt in with the fact of clearly this means that yesterday, this representative of the Kai and the First Minister of Bajor saw drunk dancing Casey and went, he's the person who will help us with our problem.
That's him.
That's the
We need
boy.
that boy. We need that specific boy.
Which
the
is
one
what-
who's on the table.
Which is why I had every reason to think that the Vedek was aware of his works and went, oh no, he's brilliant. I'll find him when he's sober.
He was dancing and drinking and also shouting pie to like the 50th decimal place at the same time.
Oh, I thought you just meant shouting pie, like apple.
Pie.
Or he gave the
pie,
First Minister
pie.
a lap dance, and this is all just a very incognito plan.
I'm being
The First Minister's
seduced.
like, bring me the science, twink.
That's him. That's my flavor. That's my ish.
Oh no. Anyway,
Moving swiftly on.
rapidly moving swiftly on.
Before we get another Bajoran flirting with sad boys.
Apparently the sad boys are like
Harry-
catnip to them.
So boys
we
do
attract-
Bajor.
Oh no, you're so sad and so smart. Nathan,
Sam, what's going on?
Nathan, please God. I do believe you have intentions.
Do. I need to
No.
find Prime Lector Kel.
Once again, I'm doing that thing in the back of my mind where I'm like, oh no, Countess and Zal haven't had much to do. And then I'm like, no, it's important that Emily and Mike have things to do. Their characters can take the back burner or have things to do. Like, that's okay. But in my head, that's like they're two different players. And I'm like, oh no, Zal's player hasn't had much to do.
Excuse me, Vance hasn't spoken once this session.
Outrageous behavior. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Vance will wish that he didn't have much to say this session.
Vance will cry this session.
Yeah, Captain Athan, you are up next. Oh, also, I realised you asked a question earlier, and I feel I should answer it out of character as well as in character. When you say when is the keynote address due?
Yes.
Broadly speaking, next session.
I assume, okay, to be fair, it wouldn't actually be past this player group to suddenly go, hey, Kath, monologue, ad-lib for 10 minutes. We're not giving you any warning. So actually, it was probably very naive of me to have assumed that it would be next session, but I did assume it would be next session.
Given that I am a pure sadist.
that's I had to this
Yeah, no.
shit's happened before.
I suddenly realized I thought that was the kind of the undercurrent of your question is like, when will I be expected to do this? Not this session.
I assume, like, to be fair, I took that from penultimate day of the what's it.
But anyway, I'm so sorry. You carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would like to try to find a chance to speak privately with Prime Lector Kel.
So you approach where the Cardassians have, like the Cardassians who have been in and out of their own diplomatic shit all morning because of the Corvus. You arrive at their sort of the bit that they have marked out as their private everyone, like, there's a whole bunch of completely neutral private conference rooms, but throughout the conference so far, they have been like they have become like, this is ours.
I don't know if it's too video gamey of me, but I always just kind of assume in these things, and I've done this as a GM running things like that. There's basically like tiny enclaves where each section group is, and you can find them there, and it's fine. So I need the Cardassian enclave.
Yes, you go and find the Cardassian enclave. Outside the door, there are 2 Cardassians, members of the military. I can remember, and this is shameful because I know much about Cardassians, that if they have ways of indicating rank, or is it just a thing that they know about?
I think it's implied it's something on the armor, because like legates have really fancy engraving and shit on their stupid armor, but I don't recall. I think that's generally it would be something on that. But unfortunately, we only ever encounter the ranks of Gull and Glyn. There are literally no other canonical ranks, so they've not, in short, Trek hasn't bothered to help us.
In which case, I can say confidently that you approach, and outside, clearly in a sort of monitoring position, are a legate and a Gull.
Good day. I'm Captain Athan. I'd like to speak with Prime Lector Kel.
Prime Lector Kel is currently in conference with Cardassian military command. Is there something we can do, Captain?
I don't believe so. This is of some significance and importance.
You are welcome to come in and wait if you wish. He will not be long.
Thank you. I will be happy to wait.
I am Legate Kantar of the Diplomatic Corps, and this is Gul Arkan, Captain of the Trador.
Oh no. Captain of the Trador. You've got a fine crew under your command there, Gull.
I'm sorry, Captain Athan. What ship did you say you were from?
USS Iskandar.
Yes, I am aware that our crews have had some history.
I was a great admirer of your predecessor.
I understand that the internal politics of Cardassia might not reach the Federation as quickly as some, but that is perhaps not the most politic thing to say at this conference.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
No, it is. You would have no reason to know Captain Athan, but he is a criminal.
Indeed.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of any charges that had been leveled against it. I wasn't aware.
Well, as you know, he is presumed guilty until proven innocent.
Of course, that such traditions of the Cardassian justice system remained upheld had possibly passed me by. That is regrettable.
We find it very direct. If there is such evidence that he is not a seditionist, then we will, of course, see to it that justice is done.
I am very optimistic that justice will indeed be done.
I have absolute faith in our judiciary. Kana?
Why not? I'm gonna break this bottle into his face.
Galarkan pulls the Kana as Legate Kantar is sort of sorting out some documents and things, and clearly has indicated in whatever appropriate way possible to the Prime Lector that he has a captain waiting for him. And Galarkan is sat sort of swirling his drink and is appraising Athan. He's not staring at her, but he's clearly looking at her.
Something on your mind, Galarkan?
It is simply that I had heard a great many stories about you, Captain Athan, and I'm interested.
Please.
Discovering a race of subterranean mole people on Theocade. Fascinating.
I feel something may have been lost in the translation at that point, but an additional culture thriving in their way, separate to the surface culture, yes.
And of course, the earthquakes and psychosis of your crew. Regrettable.
Starfleet life is nothing if not varied, and I'm sure I would find diplomacy very tiresome if it did not include the occasional twist and turn.
No, but I cannot imagine that it has done well for the psyche of the Iskandar.
Starfleet are great believers in prioritizing the mental as well as physical health of our people. We consider our wounds inside and we treat them as well. Just
Quite.
as if any of them had suffered a broken bone, we help them.
I understand it was a regrettable side effect of the visit to the Wayfarer facility.
Well, I suppose, yes, that would be inevitable if a facility had been designed to psychologically torment people who have been trapped there as test subjects, then that would affect and afflict anyone else who set foot there.
I'm certain that the regrettable side effects of ancient technologies and their effect on humans and Cardassians are a curiosity. I, for one, especially pushed that my poor predecessor be treated as mad and not criminal.
Then that's regrettable, Galarkan. You've not had the opportunity to directly examine the evidence from that, as certainly the conclusion of the finest minds of Starfleet science are confident that everything that occurred in that facility was intentional, scientific, unethical experiment.
It is certainly a shame that you think that, Captain.
I tend to not argue with my scientists when they're right.
But of course, that does mean that if that is true, we return to sedition rather than insanity. I do so hate to be proved wrong.
I am sure I'll have conversations at some point about the treatment of the truth with individuals such as Prime Later Kel and some legates over the course of the next few days. But of course, Gull, Arkan, you're entitled to your opinion.
The truth is very important to the Prime Latter, as it is to all of us.
Of course, I believe that without confronting truths, even unwelcome and uncomfortable truths, it is impossible for us to ever move forward.
Quite. You've not seen much of your first officer today. I trust she is well.
She is quite well. This is a large conference with a large number of attendees.
Of course, but she has quite piqued our interest.
Has
I
she?
know that my crew speak of her often.
She's an excellent officer and she's worked with your crew before, so I'm glad that she's made a positive impact on them.
I understand she's quite a voracious reader.
She's a Starfleet officer. We tend to be encouraged towards self-improvement in such ways.
I wonder what it is she is improving.
Probably about 5 things at once, knowing my exo.
Not knowing Vulcans.
You have much experience of Vulcans, Gul Arkan?
Only a little during the war.
They're much different to work alongside, I'm sure.
Perhaps. I found them a fascinating subject of study.
Indeed.
There is a beep on Legate Kantar's pad, and he goes, the Prime Lector is out of his call, Captain, if you wish to go and see him.
Of course. Thank you for the diversion, gentlemen.
No, thank you, Captain. It was refreshing.
Gets a nod, and I leave without murdering him.
Why are my favorite NPCs just the worst?
I hate you!
Oh no, I look like I know how to get under cat skin all the time.
Can we just yeet all the Cardassians out the nearest airlock?
So far, none of the Cardassians who've arrived have been of any use whatsoever, so I think we could yeet them all.
Yeet!
Legate Kantar is fine.
Like Qatar was fine.
Nope. Yeet. Oh, whole Cardassian removal service? Yes, whole Cardassian.
No, the thing I deeply hate is that when you said Cardassian prison camp guard, I thought, oh no, the Cardassians aren't just a lock them up and throw away the key kind of prison guards. They are definitely the kind of, I should study them and see what makes them tick prison guards.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you walk in and the Prime Lector is sat sort of at a very standard sort of desk. You know, the screen has gone dark and he is holding a cup of something and just kind of like not full on face in hands, but it's definitely sat with a kind of.
Because if you're having something of a day, Prime Lector.
It could be said to be so, Captain Athan. Please.
Sit.
Coffee?
Oh, please. Does not give Athan coffee, just drinks his coffee.
That's what I'm living. No, he does. I just then wanted a sip of my coffee. And he sits there, sort of just patiently waiting for her to speak.
I'm sorry to say I'm not necessarily here to make things easier for you, though we can probably make it so. I've just spoken with the captain of the Corvus.
Ah.
So we're aware of the situation of what happened with the ambassador. And the regrettable fact that it appears that he was murdered over the border with his time amongst in the company of Cardassian officers.
Yes, however, by human agitators.
It would certainly seem that. I'm very curious to get to the bottom of it myself. I know that Starfleet is intent on dispatching multiple ships to investigate the matter, but I'm assuming that's something which there is some reluctance on behalf of the Cardassian military to assist with.
Yes, it is something of a contentious issue. Legate Elrad is currently overseeing smoothing these matters, but I have granted him permission to allow access.
Good.
At least to outposts, but there is an amount of friction. There always is.
Of course there is, and I understand the situation is going to be delicate, but I do have to make it very, very clear that Starfleet intends to get to the bottom of what happened with the murder of one of our ambassadors.
Oh, as do we. We are very interested in the motives and what is the word I'm looking for? Is he? The motives and origins of these murderers.
Quite. However, I'm sure that we'll be making multiple requests, if not for access, then for information, and this is going to be best done in the fullest cooperation between Starfleet and Central Command.
Of course, Captain, but you do understand that although speed is of the essence, I am very reticent to rush through permissions when this situation is so tense.
I understand, but this is something which has happened only a matter of days ago.
Of course.
There is the possibility, indeed, I agree, the likelihood that these individuals may have fled across the border into Federation space, and as such, only a multilateral operation of Starfleet and Cardassian forces cooperating
Captain
is going to have us hot on their heels.
You are hearing no complaints from me on the subject of ensuring we are following these murderers back to Federation space. However, given the origins of these murderers, I am hesitant to give over control of this operation to the Federation.
It's not about control, it's about access.
Access
And regardless of origin,
and control are the same things.
Regardless of your emphasis of origin, a Federation diplomat has been murdered
Which-
within
Which is
Cardassian.
quite obviously, Captain,
territory.
the last thing Cardassian Central Control wanted.
Yes.
But you must understand, Captain, that from where we sit, this looks very ill for the Federation.
I would say from where this sits, one of our diplomats murdered scant years after a war, coming in the spirit of cooperation's Cardassian territory, wishing to view Cardassian territory, which is territory which has been ceded and retained by Cardassia, despite certain regrets by certain individuals within the Federation. I think it's very important that Cardassia recognizes their culpability and responsibility in making sure that we all get to the bottom of this.
And what of the culpability of the Federation? If these are Federation citizens who have breached our sovereign territory and committed a murder designed to undermine our authority, we are aware that you are very fond of throwing your weight around in the galaxy, Captain, and that we have been thoroughly shamed by the end of the war. However, if this is designed to be an exercise in further undermining our position, then it is a very poor look for the Federation.
I would say that if Cardassia wishes to continue to engage in diplomatic undertakings with the Federation, which will include all of the various relief efforts which we are funneling into Cardassia for the rebuilding of Cardassia, we need to be sure that we can maintain open and positive diplomatic relations in full security.
Are you blackmailing us, Captain?
No, I am pointing out the reality of the situation.
The reality of the situation is that Federation citizens committed a murder on Cardassian
The reality of the
soil.
situation is that we do not know who these people are. And that is something I wish to find out for sure to be able to ensure further security. And I do care about that far more than I care about territorial disputes.
If these were Cardassians, unaffiliated with the Cardassian government, this would be brought at our threshold without hesitation. They are humans. They are the Federation's problem.
I am agreeing with the likelihood of this, but until we know anything more, you're in no position to demand how we conduct the investigation of a murdered diplomat in Cardassian territory.
I have
And
been nothing but cooperative on this point, Captain. But all I am saying is I will not breach our standard operating protocols simply because of the urgency of the matter. I am aware of the urgency of the matter, but I am not going to undermine Cardassian protocol because of the Federation.
One of the points of contention which arose in the last few days has been the insistence that the Cardassian Union has the right to dispatch forces, sometimes even across the border, in the interests of its own security.
Border disputes between us and Bajor have been ongoing for generations. This is
Federation
something...
members crossing into Federation territory. It is not one rule for us and one rule for you.
Very well. I've heard what you've had to say.
However, that is one factor in the coming days. And obviously I'm keen to get to the bottom of it so that it doesn't... No, I'm sure it will define the coming days. But it is not the only factor which concerns me. And when I say concerns, I mean that I hope very much for this conference to be about the future, rather than us getting mired too much in a murky present, especially a murky present which has all the hallmarks of dark echoes of the past.
Indeed.
And so I would like very much for us to be able to talk about the future of the Cardassian Union and the United Federation of Planets.
You have any thoughts?
I would like, insofar as you are prepared to tell me, Prime Lector Kell, how you see Cardassia and Cardassia's future.
When I stood for office, I ran on a platform of looking to the future, not dwelling on the past. But my people are very good at dwelling on the past, as are the Federation. The toll of the war on Cardassia cannot be underestimated. I don't think we will fully know the psychological impact for another 100 years. So in the meantime, I am leading a people who are still in shock, which means that they are like to be erratic, which I do not intend as an excuse. But means that while one day I can stand on a platform of progression and forward thinking, and the next I can be arguing that we should not return to the days of automatic capital punishment. It is a balancing act.
I understand that navigating past an atrocity is incalculably complex. And I am going to trot out the Federation rhetoric, and it may seem tired, but I have to assure you, Prime Lector, I wholly believe it when I say that I think that the best way forward for the Cardassian people is with open hands and open eyes and open hearts to the rest of the galaxy. We want to help. And when I say it is concerning to the Federation to see indications such as you suggest of Cardassian traditionalists who draw strength from the times before the war, I do not mean this in the diplomatic sense. I do not mean that it endangers our future. I mean that it worries us because we do want what is best for the Cardassian people. And yes, you can say, and this is also the accusation we often hear, who are we to decide what is best?
The last time we reached out to the Federation, 800 million Cardassians died.
The last time you reached out to the Federation, the Dominion issued a surrender. And yes, it was too late for those 800 million. But without the help of the Federation supporting Legate Damar's resistance, we both know that far more would have perished before the Dominion stopped.
The cycle of our people is one of a never-ending sacrifice for the good of Cardassia. But it sticks ill with many of us that so many Cardassians were sacrificed for the Federation's view of peace. But it was a war we won together. But the shared collective pain
of the Federation allies does not even begin to match what Cardassia suffered.
I'm not saying that it does, though I confess I'm not sure where Federation culpability in this matter comes into it.
What I am saying is that the Federation were very happy to be our allies when we were dying for them.
I can understand that perspective. However, I would point out that it was the Cardassian Union who joined with the Dominion in the aggressive declaration of war upon the Federation and the Klingon Empire.
The Klingons did not leave us much choice.
And the Federation?
You made your decision by siding with the Klingons. I'm aware that there were a lot of personal emotions involved in the beginning of the war, and I will not comment on the actions or behaviors of Captain Benjamin Sisko. But it is clear that a dislike of our people was at the core of our treatment.
Your treatment, I would say it was a choice to join with the Dominion, who have made it clear that certainly what they prioritized was galactic domination.
At the time, it was deemed appropriate, but I am sure that you and the Klingons would believe that we have been suitably chastised for it.
I'm not interested in chastisement. This isn't about pride. And as you said, you don't want to reflect over much on the past. Federation negotiations with the Cardassian Union have repeatedly involved offers of compromise. We ceded territory to you 10 years ago. And I think everyone agrees that the ceding of territory into the demilitarized zone and then over in the Cardassian border of Federation colonies was a mistake.
A lot has changed in those 10 years.
But no one anticipated the Maquis would come about as a result of that ceding of territory. I am not interested in looking back. However, as I say, it is the future that concerns me, and it is what is best for the Cardassian people. And I fear... I came out from a conversation with Galar Khan in which he reminded me of how the Cardassian justice system has not changed. One example of legal political structures remaining as they were. And if this continues, if the response to the war by the Cardassian Union is simply to double down, how does this cycle then stop, Prime Lector? We recall how this occurred. The Federation issues protests at the treatment of prisoners. Cardassia states that it will do what is necessary to keep itself safe. We have tensions on the border, just such as I came in right now, and I'm prepared to accept that maybe we need to change the cycle, even of a conversation that we've just had. The Federation protests. Cardassia draws a line in the sand. Whatever happens, both sides feel as if the line in the sand has been scuffed too much. We have to break this cycle.
Prime Lector, Cardassian High Command for you, first priority. Captain, it is very easy to say that this discussion should have nothing to do with pride when you are on the side that unambiguously won. Now, if you'll excuse me, this is first priority.
Get up and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna yeet every Cardassian.
Captain Athan steps out of the Cardassian enclave into the hallway. What is her attitude?
Very fucking tense. I don't know who she needs to talk to someone, and I don't know who it's gonna be.
Well, you shall have time. You are walking away from another job well done. Basically, this has been if Strange with us, you know how there are two sorts of people who must have like a million things on their to-do list that they tick off, even if they're just like make breakfast, brush teeth, open curtains. And then the people that go, I must have one very intensely complicated project to work on, even though it will take me forever. If Strange were the sort of person that had like do a million easy things in a day, he would be just having the best day because he has not been challenged as an engineer once, but he's getting a lot done.
He's bored out his skull then.
I imagined that was the case. You know, you're walking, you're maintaining your harassed, busy walk, even though that's just sort of your standard. But in your heart of hearts, you're going, I've nothing. Like the next thing on your list is literally a second verse, same as the first, and you are off in your own cloud of, you know, where your mind wanders to anything slightly more interesting than this. As you realize that there has been a voice sort of behind you trying to reach you, saying, Lieutenant Strange?
Sorry, yes. And he'll turn around.
Hi. I'm it's a Starfleet engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chief Palacio. I'm from the Corvus.
Ah, yes, of course.
I thought I'd come and liaise with you a little, you know, about since we just got here and it's everything is everything.
It is very everything.
He completely joins in step with you.
It's the Starfleet engineer's patented harassed busy walk.
Yep, I'm busy all the time. So I'm aware that you've got seniority over the situation and you've been on the ground here more than we have. But I've got engineers I can filter out anywhere. I just thought I'd get a lay of the land, see what's going on.
So the biggest thing we've got is it's a lot of little things going on, and Change will kind of reel off, you know, some examples of here are some of the rubbish little tasks that I've been given to do today. So it's a lot of things like that. It'll be, you know, just minor things with, say, you know, the air conditioning in a room might not be right. A door is making a funny noise. Something in this room isn't shutting properly. Lots and lots of little things. Izzy, OC check. Are there more little things breaking than I would expect for something like this? Or does this seem about right for...
No, this is definitely far beyond the standard wear and tear of lots of people doing things at once.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't, if someone asked, oh, like what? You couldn't quite put your finger on it. There's just a greater volume of it.
So it's like things are just kind of wearing out faster or just weren't built properly in the first place.
People complaining a lot about like calibrations of things.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's certainly an unusual number of minor complaints. I would not have expected a station of this kind of age, of this kind of build, and with this many people using it to have this many problems. But we've certainly got them, and far more complaints than I'd anticipated, really.
Do you suspect foul play, boss?
I can't tell if it's foul play or if it's just this place might not have been built properly in the first place, or something. I don't know.
Oh, given the specs of it, it seems like when Starfleet Diplomacy were picking a place for their big conference, they'd have picked the best and had all their best engineers looking over it.
Well, yeah, I mean, to say, I wasn't expecting anything like this from a station, this kind of station.
Then I am supremely sorry that we have not been here to relieve you sooner.
Better late than never, and any assistance your engineers can provide on keeping on top of these issues would be very much appreciated.
Of course, I can see you holding 6 or 7 pads. How many of those can I take off your hands right now?
You could probably take this one. How many engineers have you got from the Corvus?
I've got 7 on the ground now, and I can bring down more, but they won't be as briefed.
Okay, take those 2 for now. And if you can bring any more engineers on board, then I could probably give you this one as well.
Neat. I've always wanted to meet the Acadian.
They're an interesting bunch. They like to make it very clear how they're speaking to you.
I am completely fine with not dancing around an issue.
It's certainly refreshing in many ways, I found.
Well, anyway, you can get in touch with me anytime. I'm going to be around. I imagine we're going to be probably crisscrossing, orbiting each other like we're electrons.
Of course, yes.
Taking up a lot of space, never to meet. But apart from that, anything else I need to know about? Lots of little things.
Yeah, lots of little things going wrong. We've had a couple of issues with pressure in some of the pipework as well. We did a wall blowout yesterday, which is yeah, exactly.
Right. So look out for exploding walls.
Look out for exploding walls. We've only had the one, so we haven't got a trend or anything like that. We've just got a single data points on walls exploding. But keep
I hope we don't have to plot that.
Yes, let's not start, coming up with a frequency of how often walls explode here.
Gotcha. All right. Well, lovely to speak to you. I imagine we will not speak again for some time.
Thank you very much for your assistance, Chief.
And he turns on his heels and literally you go different directions.
And as Strange kind of goes off, there's a brief kind of sigh of relief, frankly, that finally somebody else has come along who can take some of these shitty problems off of my hands. And I can get back to maybe having some time to focus on this bigger problem of, sabotage in the walls.
The wall!
They're in the walls! They're in the goddamn walls!
And once again, Strange stands in front of a pair of doors that swish open, and you just hear inside the water just will not stop coming. And we see his face as we move him into that scene. There is an awful lot of setup and payoff of just everything Strange is doing throughout this conference. And we cut to almost the flip reverse of that scene, which is Lieutenant Samuel Casey.
Wait, Izzy. Yeah. What was the name of that fucking NPC?
Yeah,
his name was Chief Palaccio.
Yeah, it fucking was.
Yes, it was. Lieutenant Samuel Casey, who is having a much chiller time. He has been classic engineering stance. He is lying underneath a pan. He's lying in that way that he's looking up into a panel. There are very few people around. In fact, no people around. It's clearly kind of a stark contrast to what the Cardassians have done with their space in keeping it brutalist. The Bajorans have sort of moved into their nest, as it were. And Casey is lying down. He's got like some equipment next to him. He's not doing full-on engineering work. He's doing diagnostic work. And there is a sort of an aura of like quiet around him. And we see him tinker away, gently muttering to himself as he works because he's incapable of working in silence. And a sort of a shadow looms over him, but it's definitely not like a shadow, more of a, he's inside and he doesn't see who it is. Lieutenant?
He kind of pushes his way out. Yes.
It is a young Bajoran, not young, sort of a middle-aged Bajoran woman, with brown hair, fairly nondescript, who the audience will know as the Bajoran Langsnerilla. And she is holding a cup that's sort of steaming. Everyone went to a meeting, and I stayed. So I thought I'd bring you some tea.
Thank you. I honestly didn't notice people leaving.
No, I get a little focused on my work too.
Well, thank you for the tea.
She sort of sits down and like hands it to him. How's it going?
Not so bad. I'm yet to find anything particularly out of the ordinary, but I'm being diligent. Hopefully, there'll be some answers as to concerns, but I'm doing what I can. How was your day?
Quiet. I'm an attaché, so most of my work is just when the diplomats are done with theirs, I make sure the data is nicely formatted. I make sure it's going back to Bajor on the secure channels. Boring legwork, but it's important to get everything done.
It sounds it.
But I know that you're not I saw you down with the diplomats, but I know that you're a scientist, right?
I am, yes.
You're with the Iskandar.
I am, yes.
It's a fascinating ship. I don't know much about it, but I know that Captain Athan's record speaks for itself.
Oh, I have no doubt about that.
You must have a... No, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say...
She pulls up her tea.
I was going to simply say that I have the honor of serving as the Chief Science Officer, but I've been there quite a while now, and I could not think of a finer place for my career in Starfleet to flourish.
It's an Akira class, right?
No, it's... Intrepid.
Oh, the science ships then.
Yes.
So, you as the chief scientist must have a lot to do.
I would say so, yes. In all honesty, there's much to our ongoing mission. It isn't all science all the time, much as I would probably hope it would be.
But I guess given the quality of the ship, I can't imagine they'd hire someone as their chief science officer who wasn't the best.
Oh, that's kind of you to say. I hope that I can live up to that expectation.
Well, given Captain Athan's record, I can't imagine you stayed around long. That wasn't meant to be a dig. Just that clearly your record speaks for itself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here.
No, forgive me. I'm just not quite used to flattery, and I don't know how to.
Oh, I'm not very good at giving flattery. I meant it honestly.
Oh, well, that's a relief. Thank you.
No, thank you. This is I don't get to talk to people much in my job at the moment, so just kind of nice to speak outside of Bajoran politics.
I have no doubts.
I visited Earth when I was younger, so I like hearing about it. Have you ever been to America?
Only for the academy. I'm not native to Earth myself.
Oh, yeah, not everyone is. But I'd like to go back someday. It's nice.
It is nice. It's nice.
But I'm fascinated to hear about your ship. It's just I always found Starfleet really exciting. I always thought maybe I'd like to join, but I kind of figured that it's not quite for me.
Oh, I'm not sure. It depends on where your aptitudes and ambitions lie, I think. But I'll happily talk to you about the Iskandar herself, yes.
My aptitudes and ambitions. uh,
What do you want to know about an intrepid class?
I'm more interested in the people, you know? You're all kind of celebrities in your own right.
Oh, are we? That's worrying.
Well, the ship itself, so like hearing the people and how it works is kind of exciting, you know? I'm really interested in systems and how people relate to each other. I'm not very good at it, so
Oh,
I always like
well, to I suppose if you just want to, I don't know, to begin with the bridge crew and go from there.
I think anyone who you think is exciting will be exciting for me to know about.
Oh well, let me tell you first and foremost about Lieutenant Adam Strange.
Oh, you're chief engineer.
Yes.
I've seen him running hither and thither.
Oh yes, he's incredibly busy at the moment, but he is an excellent engineer, one of the finest I've ever worked alongside.
He always seems very busy.
That's not always true. It's certainly truer here than it is normally. He's always very active. He seems to be dealing with a lot right now, but he's
I remember he was dealing with a wall that exploded.
yes, quite concerning. That seems like there were well, I shouldn't necessarily besmirch the good work of, but it's something untoward happened there. We haven't quite gotten to the bottom of it. I'm sure Adam will come to the end of it.
I heard it was pressure in the pipes, but I guess I'm not an engineer.
It seems like it might have been pressure in the pipes. It's just unusual that the fail-safes didn't kick in.
Right? Because that's what you'd expect to happen on a ship like this.
Exactly. So it makes us. Certainly, I'm of the mindset that there might be something a little bit more, and not to scaremonger or anything, but it could be negligence or something a little bit altogether more conspiratorial.
Lieutenant Casey, you say not to fearmonger. I'm working with the Bajoran Diplomatic Corps. I've heard all the conspiracy theories already.
Oh, how many are centered around the exploding wall?
Oh, relatively few, but many around. The Cardassians are coming for us in our sleeps.
Yes, that's why I'm here looking for potential devices for spying and such like.
Are you?
Yes.
You think
There's a moment. I'm not sure I should have said that.
Well, it's fine. Who am I going to tell? Other Bajorans. I was told to let you in and to give you free reign in our systems, and so I have.
Okay.
You do you think the Cardassians are capable of that? I haven't had much of a run-in with them recently, but I'm a little worried.
I think it's natural to be worried in so tense and fraught a situation, particularly when you're sharing room and board and conference space with those that have previously been our enemies. But in the nature of progress, we must always seek to put those things, if not, it's not right to say behind us and move on, like these are things that can be forgotten, but we must always strive for what's next in our ongoing pursuit of peace.
Yeah. Were you in the... Sorry, I know you're quite young. Were you in the war, Lieutenant?
For a short while.
I was trained in the military, the Bajoran military. I think it's very difficult to let some of the hurt go, that kind of hurt always lives with you.
The ship I was evacuated from was struck by a Gem Hadar vessel. As you can well imagine, well, I was the only survivor. It is unnerving sometimes to see them flanking the water here, but at the same time, I acknowledge that fear and those feelings of apprehension and anxiety and adrenaline that I have in those moments that I see them are solely a response based on my experience, and that is not a universal experience. That does not dictate the next steps in terms of any broader diplomacy. That is a failure of myself, and so I have to address it as such.
Do you remember what they look like? Not the Jemadar, but the crew of your ship.
Oh, yes. There's some I wish I'd known better. There's many faces I cannot place names to, but most every second of that evacuation and that impact, I remember expressions of fear and apprehension, orders being barked, people rushing. But more than that, I remember the many stoic expressions, grim-faced determination, I suppose one might say. I remember a pervading sense of those that were standing to fight for duty. And I thought that was quite noble.
Noble. Maybe you saw a different war than I did. There was nothing noble in that war. I'm so sorry, Lieutenant. I've quite, I've quite killed the tone of the conversation.
No, I apologize if I've caused any upsets. I did not
No,
mean to.
no, it's fine. You're lucky that the ship was lost. I know it does not feel it, but I'm happy that you have those memories of your friends and they are noble.
Do you remember those that you served with?
I will get out of your hair.
Oh.
I should probably go and call the. Thank you for the tea.
Of course. Well, I hope to see you again soon.
She strides off, and there's a swish and a swish, and Casey is completely alone in the Bajoran.
That conversation
Quarters.
ended very quickly. I assumed that's my fault. I'm sure at some point I'll realize why. Go back
Lieutenant
to
Casey, please report to security for reprogramming.
work.
Conversation ended quickly because she's a spy and she got most of the info she needed from you.
Meanwhile,
You
I'll
fucking
carry on looking for spy
security.
devices.
It wasn't your mum, it was just Casey.
There wasn't a spy on the Iskandar. It was just Casey telling people things.
Lieutenant Casey, this is Lieutenant Atticus Vance. Please report to security for your whooping.
I could have
Zal
emailed
pops
one
out
day,
of events having followed Casey through the ship.
just pull him in by the head.
Yeah, it's like Alien. It just kind of like pops out and just grabs him and pulls him into the vent. Like fucking xenomorph.
I have to say, I had to close the chat just because I couldn't keep a straight face while this was happening.
Casey, no!
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Anytime. I hope it helps in your spying and terrorism.
You need to compel him.
She should have gone. Thank you. You've really helped me in my spying endeavors, and he'd have gone. Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I hope there's a great career ahead of you, Starfleet.
Oh no. Oh no.
Fucking
Oh, no.
bastard.
The crew of the Iskandar, Captain Athan, Lieutenant Commander Zalandra, and Lieutenant Casey, a total liability to everyone around him.
This is Lieutenant Casey, our loyal officer and a spy.
I got an email asking for the ship's weaknesses and our greatest fears, so I filled it out and sent it on.
I got an
They
email. that
also
said-
asked for our password and for the captain's mother's maiden name.
I got an email that said, "Hey, look, click here," and so I did because that's what it said.
I'm
Anyway,
a good boy.
you are the best.
You are our
boy.
boy.
You can have one good boy point.
Yes.
Sounding like those dark side happy points, but carry on.
And before we go to our break, I am going to have Lieutenant Vance, who is
Meet Casey with a stick.
who is stood leaning on the in his kind of the place that he has defaulted to as his default lurking post, where he perches up above the mezzanine so he can watch what's going on.
The Odo maneuver.
The Odo maneuver. Look, it's classic. You find a place where you can see lots of stuff and you brood. And he is approached by. He's not proud that he flinches slightly before realizing that it's Legate Kantar of the junior legate of the diplomatic corps, who approaches with a sort of straight-backed Lieutenant Vance.
Wake up.
May I stand with you?
Yeah, sure.
I have come to deliver a message on behalf of the legate.
Elrad?
Yes. Oh, yes, I am a legate. Forgive me, my promotion was fairly recent.
I understand your rank system is complicated. Please go on.
Before I deliver the message, please tell me if I am speaking out of turn. It does not sit easy with me, the behavior of the legate in the past few days. I have not worked closely with him before, but I have been in his apartment for some time. I have never seen him up close the way I have at this conference. I do not know why I was selected for this detail, but if I had known what I believe I now know, I should not have wished to have been part of it.
I was going to ask if you wanted to be more specific, but I assume you can. So I'm assuming, and you only just need to kind of make a noise of assent or sound indignant. I'm assuming that you mean if you'd realized he's this much of a son of a bitch, you wouldn't have wanted to be part of it.
No, I mean the promotion of Arcan from Glyn to Gal. There were a number of promotions before the conference. Glyn Arcan and I worked together in the past. I cannot say I ever liked him, but we were not closely work related. Then very rapidly he was promoted to Gal and given a command despite having very little command experience.
And that sits ill with you.
No, I could not figure out why. But I think that I know why he promoted him. That he could bring him here.
Oh?
I know what Arcan did in the war. We all do. The men who served in those places, they're built different. I cannot fathom it.
No. Man ain't built different. Legate. It ain't that simple. Maybe he became different.
Maybe.
So you wish that you'd not taken this, that you'd had nothing to do with it.
I'm aware that in the higher ups of Cardassian command, people are put into positions for all manners of reasons, not simply because of skill, but often politics. But this was underhanded to an extreme that to bring one man to undermine another is
Oh my fuck. Get out.
it makes me feel like that. Like I have a grumpy cat in my heart that just won't stop screaming at me. I was speechless when I heard, and
Well, I guess you got a choice then ahead of you, Leggett. I guess you can carry on being speechless. Or, frankly, in my experience, you can get chewed up and spat out and disposed, because so far as I've been able to tell, that's the only thing that the Cardassian hierarchy tries to do to good men. At least the ones who speak.
you were close with the we're not supposed to say his name. The legate's son.
I met him once. I'm aware of what's happened to him. I'm aware of why.
Do you believe he is a seditionist?
I mean, that's the interesting thing. Because I get it, in the eyes of your law, he's broken it. He's gone out and told people something he wasn't supposed to. But you see, right and wrong and rule of law, not automatically the same thing. Can you imagine? I don't believe that he did that in order to weaken the Cardassian people, in order to hurt the Cardassian people. I'm not sure why he did it. I'm not the best person to ask. But so far as I can tell, he did it because, frankly, so far as I'm concerned, what happened in that place, the thing he talked about, was exactly the same kind of thing that people like Gull Arcan did in the war. And just as Gull Arcan then gets made a Gull, your people would much rather that ancient sins got pushed under the carpet and folk who speak the truth about it confront the truth about it. The people who do these things ain't made different. They're part and parcel of all of you. And that's not about Cardassians, that's about people.
The legate would like a meeting with you tonight. He has discovered the source of your leak.
And he wants to keep me on tenterhooks? How polite. Who does he want me to bring?
Whomever you like. He is in meetings all day.
Thank you. I don't have a lot of faith in Cardassian High Command to change. I make a point of not concerning myself with whether or not that'll happen. You know, things which get me through the day. I don't know what I think you should do. But I know that doing nothing ain't gonna make anything better.
Perhaps not. But given what happened to the family of the legate's son, I am reminded that I too have a family who I owe my loyalty to. It is not always that simple, Lieutenant. Until this evening. And he pulls away, leaving Lieutenant Vance brooding. And on that, I'm going to call for a quick 10-minute break. Please go hydrate. Please send me your thoughts. Please send me your trash bags. Please send me your well wishes.
What's that legate's name again?
Kantar.
Sorry, he's now important.
Oh,
Like it can get in the bin.
with him. He's doing his. Anyway, see you after the break. Have a good one. Yeah. The scene opens from the break with Lieutenant Kantos walking gently along a corridor of people. The people have definitely given Kantos quite a wide berth. It is probably not because of Lieutenant Adina Kantos, who is lovely, but the diplomat that he is escorting, flanked as she
They're
is
escorting.
that they're escorting, flanked as she is by two very tall Jem'Hadar. It certainly has been a fascinating conference, hasn't it?
It has. Yes.
Everybody is at each other's throats. It's like being back at home.
There's certainly been a lot more people at each other's throats than I was expecting. But there have been some, entertaining interactions that haven't been people at each other's throats.
No, I suppose not. And you have been doing such a wonderful work, Adina. I've seen you speaking to everyone like a little butterfly.
Oh, you flatter me so, Agniana.
I flatter myself that flattery is one of my areas of expertise.
You do it so well.
You remind me very much of my Confederate Palmin. Such a shame he couldn't be here.
Oh,
He and I were both at the signing of the peace treaty where we met Captain Foster.
yes, I had heard.
Palmin too was charming and effusive. Palmin 3 just doesn't have his edge. Pity.
A pity then.
It must be nice in the Federation not having to worry about quirks of personality when you become your new clone. But I suppose you do have to worry yourself about that messy issue of dying horribly.
There is that. That is a trade-off we make. But it works for us.
Well, I'm sure if dying horribly can work for anyone, it's the Federation. You have that scrappy energy. You can just make anything work for you.
It's one of the many charms of the Federation. We're quite versatile when we all work together.
I believe the word is cheeky. You have a sort of cheeky energy. I think that's why I like you, Adina. She puts her hand on their elbow and just keeps walking. They won't speak to me. Very rude.
Oh, dear.
They insisted they would only speak to me without my bodyguards present. I think they meant to kill me.
I'm sure they didn't mean to kill you, more just but to have a conversation in a more private manner with you.
Ah, perhaps a maiming. I have heard them threaten me with that. They seem to think that would affect me. It is a shame. I mentioned it to Lieutenant Vance, but I did not think he was interested.
A pity. Maybe I'll remind him that threats of maiming have come your way.
Well, implied threats of maiming, you understand.
I see. Nothing so direct.
They seem to think that I do not understand implication.
I'm gonna have to jump in.
No!
Athan to Lieutenant Cantos.
If you'll excuse me.
Oh, of course. Any
Duty
time,
calls.
Adina. Next time we must get a drink.
We must.
She turns and walks away.
Candace is going to wait a second till like the hour is slightly further up the corridor.
You hear her say, "Oh, Greta," and just sweeps up.
Captain?
If you could report to my office at your earliest convenience, Lieutenant.
Of course, Captain. On my way.
So when Cantos gets there and comes in, Athan has probably come the closest, certainly that any crew member of the Iskandar has ever seen from her, to producing a wall of crazy. But it's a very professional one with hollow displays, etc., etc. And
It's not quite escalated to getting the actual ball of red string and box of pins that she keeps in the bottom drawer of her desk out.
No, it is very. It is divided into multiple segments, and the segment which Cantos will be able to quite easily make sense of is a timeline of events which covers about the past 15 years of Federation Cardassian relations.
God.
And it looks like it is detailed, and it's color coded.
Oh, no.
Like there's clearly some indication of categorization going on here of certain events seeming linked. And then after that, there are like, I'm gonna go with 3, but if I improv something different, just accept it. Segments beyond that, which are much more kind of mind map-esque on other panels. And that's less dates and that's more event, like concepts springboarding off one another, and some of them have quite long tails in places. And Athan is sat. She does have her collar loosened. She does have her sleeves rolled up. She does have a cup of probably coffee, but it is not steaming. Like that's probably
Oh dear, it's been
not
there a while.
drunk. And Izzy needs a moment.
Loosened collar and sleeves rolled up.
Scandalous. Oh,
It's
Captain, my
scandalous.
Captain.
It's
Scandalous.
scandalous.
Christ.
Yeah, so when Cantos walks in, they initially kind of looking still a little. They're feeling a little smug about how they've handled the conversation with the votes, and thinking, yes. At no point she asked me about sabotage or anything like that. We vaguely gossiped, and the conversation seemed to go well. I
Good.
think I did a good job there.
She's also feeling smug about their conversation, but just as default.
Yeah. So they come in kind of still looking quite pleased with themselves. Not hugely, but just a little bit. And then they'd see the murder board. And then they kind of suddenly realise, oh fuck. Shit's got real. Or shit's gone wildly off the rails. Either way. Fuck.
I hope I wasn't
Captain.
interrupting you in the middle of anything important.
No. I was just having a pleasant conversation with the voter.
Really?
Well, it was a conversation with the voter. But a conversation about nothing in particular, so.
2347. The first breakout of hostilities between the Federation and the Cardassian Union. 2366. The last formal conflict. Takes
Hmm.
4 years. 2371. 2370. Federation Cardassian Treaty. The end of the war. The armistice is finally fully debated, hammered out, and it creates a demilitarized zone. And the demilitarized zone, we end up ceding a number of territories into either unclaimed space or Cardassian space, necessitating a forced resettlement of populace, which leads to the rise of the Marquis. The end of the war, pressure of the Marquis leads to the rise of control of Gul Dukat, Legate Dukat, of the Cardassian government. You know, for a time, he was actually considered quite a pro-Federation figure.
I did not know that, Captain, although a lot of the rest of this is relatively well-known history. I assume you didn't intend for this to solely be a history lesson.
History is always repeating itself. An ambassador has been killed, and I have to go to the Prime Lector, and I have to insist, no, that's not acceptable. We have to be involved, because that's how diplomacy works. It's like in chess. You have to make certain opening moves, or when you make an opening move, there are other things which the other side has to do. It's just what one does. We have to be involved. We can't let the murder of a diplomat go unanswered without our involvement. Galactic diplomacy would
Yes.
fall apart
Yes.
if we cannot confirm the safety of these diplomats. But then how does this end in any way it goes different? There's a very high likelihood, if assuming that everything is currently as it seems, humans, almost certainly Federation citizens, are responsible for the murder of this diplomat in Cardassian territory. And then how does this end? We get them. Let's say we captured them.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardassians are going to want them.
Yes.
And we're never going to hand
Going to
them
hand
over.
them over. Yeah.
Not just because they've murdered a Federation diplomat, but because the Cardassian judicial system remains one to which we will never extradite offenders.
Yes.
The Cardassians get them.
The Cardassians get them, the Federation makes demands that they be extradited to the Federation because it's Federation citizens, crimes against the Federation, and as you said, we would never allow any Federation citizens to be tried under Cardassian law.
Prime Director Kell's talking about how, and I think he's right, the Cardassian people are currently in the thrall of trauma. They suffered
Yes, they've
absolute atrocity. And what they're doing is they're running back to their safe ground. And their safe ground is the exact set of circumstances which just led to the Dominion War. The only thing that's different is that right now Cardassia has been gutted. But that doesn't mean anything necessarily. It means that the Federation can go... If their heads are so stuck in this sense of pride, then legates will order Cardassian citizens into conflict still.
Why is this not just words and a show of pride? Why is this necessarily going to war? If put myself in their shoes, right? There has been a devastating war that has killed millions of my people. And then now this incident comes along. And I'm from a people that have always prided themselves on being strong people, right? It makes sense to at least show that we've still got the same old backbone we used to have, that we're still fighters and strong and what have you. But if I'm smart, I know that we don't have the resource to actually back that all the way to full-blown conflict.
And that's conflict is a way down the line. Conflict is not an inevitability. It's one possibility that I see. And then that guts the Cardassian people even more, and probably results in them eventually becoming a Federation protectorate, I would expect.
Quite a long way down the line after they become a Federation protectorate, quite a long way down the line after
more people die,
after millions more people die from the conflict itself, and then millions more again die from the results of the conflict in whatever crisis, famine, any other things that go along with having put your people through total war when you don't have the ability to do so.
So if a conflict arises, the Cardassians lose, millions die. If they don't, they only see, with this pattern of behavior, I only see the Cardassian people having to withdraw from the galactic diplomatic stage, become more inclusive. That will lose them access to all manner of support. That will also lead to a massive loss of life, and possibly that starts to move out into a variety of different scenarios, but that's decades of them withdrawal and suffering, whatever comes about as a result of that. And the third one requires change in Cardassia, and I don't know how or if the Federation can enact that. We are stuck in a cycle, and every move I can see ahead of me just moves us closer and closer to the same mistakes. We have to demand access and influence to ensure justice is done for the death of this ambassador. Cardassia has to insist that they allow things to be done on their own front. I've already laid this out. I don't know how we break the cycle, and the only thing that's different right now is the Cardassian weakness from a realpolitik perspective, because you say they will back down, but at what point? Because backing down is an existential defeat.
Depends how publicly they have to back down. If they let it get to the point where their choices are either publicly back down to the Federation or go to some kind of conflict with us or go insular. They're stubborn, but they're not stupid. I don't think they're that stupid.
I thought they weren't, but here we are.
Yeah, here we are at a peace conference full of diplomats where the entire thing is just made of back channels and stuff that isn't going to get out.
It's not just that. It's their reaction to the Bajoran presence on the border. It's their reaction to the Wayfarer facility. It's the fact that every move politically we have seen from the Cardassian Union in the last 4 years is business as usual. Yes, I agree that at this conference they are here to fly the flag, but I have not seen a crack. The closest I have seen has been Prime Elector Cal knowing that what he is doing is allowing people to hold up pride because they think that's all they've got left.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we... What else do they have? And how do we show it to them? Because we can't give it to them. They won't accept it, and you can't give people that.
It's not about what they have. It's what do they want other than pride? What else do they want other than to come out of this looking like they're on top of the galaxy?
I can only fall back on standard interpretations of cultures. They want security, they want stability, they want self-determination.
Okay. So what do we have? Not just not just you and I and the crew of the Iskandar. What can the Federation potentially offer to the Cardassians related to this that helps with one of those goals?
Already been a vast amount of support in the rebuilding efforts.
Okay.
Resources are a thing that we are giving as much as we can give.
Mm-hmm.
There are already always some concerns about how those are utilized.
Mm-hmm.
But we have no grounds right now to start playing around with that.
Yeah.
That starts to get into nation building, and
Yes.
unfortunately, the Federation is only in the business of doing that when everything has collapsed and millions are already dead.
True.
Self-determination.
What do they want before this kicked off? What did they want out of this peace conference?
I'm not sure.
That's, I think, something we probably need to find out. They'll have come to this with a goal. They won't have just come to it for shits and giggles.
I attempted to extract that from Prime Electric Cal. He only talked about pride. Obviously, what he says and what's truth are not necessarily the same thing.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if they want to come back from this with a win, with proof that they can, with a scalp, with proof that they can bloody our noses, draw a line in the sand, and then that's all still pride. But I'd like to think that you're right.
Who else from the Cardassian command or anybody of any kind of rank amongst the Cardassians that are here who looks like they'd be the most willing to talk?
The Prime Lector. He's the most influential person who has appeared at least remotely
He's
open.
the most influential. Okay, the most influential person that seemed reasonably okay.
Because the other one is Leggett Elrad.
Yeah, let's not go there.
I don't see cracks in this. He is the best that we've got, and I don't know if I was being a fool to play it by the book. To demand access, because as you say,
by the book is it's a good opening start. If they were willing to play by the book and you'd gone for it, then great, that makes things easier. But unfortunately, that avenue has been tried. And
there is history with them.
Fair
what
enough.
I don't want us to do, which I can see us doing, is the same mistake we made 10 years ago, which is going, we need to preserve Cardassian face if we are to maintain further diplomatic relations. That was the sole justification for ceding that territory. It was considered a smattering of colonies, and that kept them talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it achieved absolutely nothing. We compromised on our ideals, on the rights of our citizens, in order to, I'll say it, pander to the Cardassian agenda, because you cannot compromise with them historically without in some way hurling yourself. Yes, the Federation cared more about peace than the moral high ground, and they were right to do that, but it didn't work.
It didn't last. Okay.
What do they want?
Yes, that's the question. We don't know what they want, and I don't think we have enough information to guess.
But that's still on you're right, but that's still talking about what a politician wants out of a conference, which changes tomorrow, and changing tomorrow isn't nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't break this cycle.
It doesn't immediately. But the way you break these kinds of cycles is by changing a lot of tomorrows. Gotta start somewhere.
expect Captain Jellicoe said the same thing 10 years ago. You're not wrong.
We are lucky in some ways that we've got the hindsight of what mistakes have been made in the past to learn from as well. We'll make some new mistakes, probably, but we won't make the same ones.
I am starting to finally understand the people who said that we should have put an occupying force in Cardassia at the end of the war. It's abhorrent, and we shouldn't have done it. But then you say, but now we're here. We're not in the business of nation building, except for when a nation has already completely collapsed. And I am a Starfleet captain, and I am a dedicant to the Prime Directive and to the principles of the Federation. But I am keenly aware that if we put a step wrong, if we put a foot wrong on this, we will condemn thousands for our principles.
So better not put a step wrong then.
I suppose I need to have another attempt at a conversation with Prime Lake to Kel.
Somebody needs to.
The closest thing we've ever had, closest thing we've ever met to a Cardassian who wanted something different, is a man that they've locked up and thrown away the key and are calling a traitor. And aside from who he is, how can I not be horrified that when Cardassia was presented with a choice to do things differently, they have just gone and repeated all of the same mistakes?
I'd be worried if you weren't horrified.
Thank you, Lieutenant. No, please.
Cardassia needs to change, you're right, but the way they are is that damn entrenched. It's never going to change overnight.
If it's not going to change after the Dominion War, what's going to change it? If it's a trauma reaction, what causes the change? What would Dr. Burov say? I would ask them if they were here. You have a patient who is responding after a vastly traumatic incident by repeating all of the same destructive behaviors. I would assume that somewhere in there is the demonstration by the people around them that you show them that they are still loved and cared for.
It's not just going to be about the traumatic incident itself, it's how the trauma is affecting them, and until the patient is willing to actually look beyond just the trauma itself, but to its root causes of how they ended up with the trauma in the first place, then they're not going to be able to heal. But at the minute, all they're looking at is the symptom. I'd have put the voice on as well, but I don't think that would have actually made it more like something Arkady would say.
Thank you, Lieutenant. You have been a great help. I did not think it would be
I'm glad.
appropriate to ask Commander Talandra's opinion in this matter. And truthfully, I hoped that your lack of experience in formal diplomacy would help you bring a fresh pair of eyes.
I hope I've been able to do that.
I think I need to have 2 conversations. I think I need to talk to both of these Cardassian representatives. And maybe I do need to throw the book out a bit. Because it's just going to lead us down the same old mistakes.
Anything I can help with for this?
Nothing springs to mind unless you can keep your ear to the ground on finding any cracks in this Cardassian visage.
I'll see what I can do.
I'll let you get back to work, Lieutenant. Thank you.
Anything you need, Captain? You've only to shout.
Appreciated.
And as we're doing,
Leave Athan to her murder board.
as the lieutenant is leaving, what's the last expression we're left with Captain Athan with her murder board?
It's the conflict. If she looks at the mind map with the conflict, which has multiple points, which are just like, we do this, and then they have to do this, and then we have to do this. And she reaches out and grabs one of the Federation moves, sort of yanks and throws it away, and the entire display of that trail just kind of disintegrates and leaves her.
Love it. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, then in great apologies to Kath's voice, the next shot is the hangar bay. The doors swishing open, and looking, I imagine, sort of faintly pensive, is Lieutenant Carousel, who has returned from their visit to the Corvus, and will be sort of speaking to a security lieutenant from the Corvus, who'll just say, if there's anything else we can do, Lieutenant, just get in touch.
Thank you. That's appreciated.
We will be sure to let you know when we make the transfer to the Tishra, but we have not been yet authorized to release that.
I appreciate it. Anything you can send my way will be graciously received, but let's see how it plays out.
Of course. And can I say, we all liked the Justicar. He was really nice to all of us.
He was a difficult man not to like. I tried sometimes.
Well, we're all real sorry for your loss, sir.
Thank you.
And they go back towards the ship, leaving Zal back on the space station.
Seeing Vance, I'll head over.
How'd that go?
Tense, but there's something about the grim spectacle of that kind of moment that kind of causes a ceasefire.
Yeah, I can imagine. We've got another meeting with Legate Elrad tonight.
Okay.
He reckons he's found his traitor. Source. Whatever.
You sound skeptical.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why.
Mm-hmm. Bring Adam along. Keep this same as it's been before.
Sure. Anything you want to go over beforehand?
Unless we found anything particularly new, I don't think so.
And you're okay?
I think I've got a little bit of a better estimation of who Like Elrad is, so I'm ready.
We take ready in this line of work.
There's not really much time for anything else, and I know that's not exactly the kind of thing one should be saying, but the situation isn't going to stop anytime soon.
No.
And this is something that needs doing. Yeah.
Dr. Jeshri to Lieutenant Vance.
This is Vance. Go ahead, Doctor.
I'm not certain, Lieutenant, but I believe a fight has broken out in habitation.
On our way. Not certain.
Hmm.
I'm not going to press the not certain because this is some you best get down here dialogue.
You're allowed to press it if you want. It's certainly a weird thing for the doctor to have said in
Yeah. On the way, like Vance will go, on our way. What do you mean you're not certain?
the person involved can't remember, Lieutenant.
We're on our way.
You arrive to the section that they indicate, because they always just say habitation, but you know, you're going to the precise place, and you go to open the door, and the door doesn't open.
Security override. Manual override.
It seems to me that the door just will not open, so it means that two hench security boys have to properly do the big pulley twist thing. Manual override.
Zal bench presses the
break
door.
the release
I
and then
just
you
leap
yank
into
it
it.
open.
And as you're in the process of overriding, you can hear the sounds of a conflict coming from the other side. You two are both well versed enough in conflict to already be able to dynamically risk assess that this sounds like a scuffle of people who are not fighters, rather than an actual battle or a combat between the Klingons or something, that you go, these people mean to harm each other. This seems to be more of a brawl.
Mm-hmm. Head on in.
And you walk in, and Zal, make me a might check.
That's not a...
Yeah,
Yeah.
might.
No.
Might. Physique. Oh, I mean,
Flex at the problem.
I'm gonna win.
Make it at a -2 if you would.
Oh. 6.
And you are immediately hit as you walk, both make your way through the door, of a tremendous change in the air pressure in this part of habitation. Your antennae, you feel your whole body lurch to the side, and then given your relative physical attributes, kind of rebalance yourself. But there is a moment where you go, I am falling. No, I am not falling. It's kind of the equivalent of that moment where you feel like you're falling when you're lying in bed. But you are able to right yourself because you are Lieutenant Carousel. And you see a whole flex of combats happening of various sorts. It is notable that the Klingons are not involved. It seems to be a lot of the less involved elements of the conference. And both of you, I'm giving you this for free because it is kind of the thing that the camera focuses on, is you see a familiar figure in the form of the diplomatic attaché Diadite of the Theocadian diplomatic corps. And the first thing that happens as the camera focuses in on the thing is her full-on straight arm laying someone out with a look of just absolute rage on her face.
Huh.
All right, guess we better split this up. It's like a whole bunch of people, right?
A whole bunch of people, but clearly diplomats having a time.
So Vance opens this up with the whistle to get everyone's attention. And this is Starfleet security. You should stop this right now. And assuming that they are not going to listen, he's already going to be advancing.
Some actually do. Like some of them see what you're doing and kind of blink and go, yes, of course, yes. Oh, how embarrassing. We were all having a scrap. A number of them, especially Diadite, and you notice a couple of other Theocadians, turn and look almost like they don't recognize you. That kind of, that sort of slightly feral head turn of like, and keep fighting. And you actually notice that some Theocadians are fighting each other. And you notice a number of the others who are engaging in combat, a couple of betazoids. There is one of the junior Romulan diplomats who is just kind of absolutely sweeping through a number of some other people who you can't quite tell. And it is mostly some of the others that haven't seen you stop and begin to shuffle towards the door.
Yeah, Vance is going to wade in on people who aren't breaking up the fights to try to break up the fights.
Yeah. I also am going to try and diffuse the tension here a little bit.
This bunch of fucking, some way at least latent telepathic capability species are going to get pulled apart.
I would like you, Lieutenant Vance, to roll me athletics.
Okay. Fight?
No. Yes, no. Athletics in this situation.
Okay. That is 7.
Okay. Then she moves faster than you think she should. But there is a moment where it's that kind of anime moment where you are surprised but are still able to move your head as Diadite's offhand just lashes out towards you as you approach them, but then is very quickly able to be, grab subdued. I am not making you roll fight. None of these people are fighters, and you are the chief of security of the USS Iskandar. I am not putting that in the hands of the dice. Because I will not have Vance be warped. I can't do it.
I mean, I'd have to got a +5 in fight. I'd have to.
I know, but it could happen.
But it could happen.
And as the GM, if something shouldn't be allowed to happen, don't make people roll for it.
Yeah.
And as you grab her, she is properly screaming at you to get off her.
Get her, move her away from whoever it appears to be pissing her off. For a moment, it's literally just dragging her a distance away from anything, from the inciting situation.
I mean, as you're pulling her off the people, she's still struggling really aggressively, and you spy Lieutenant Yang and a number of the officers of the Corvus who have also followed up on this call and come through the gap made in the door and also begin breaking up procedures following your lead. And very quickly everything seems to calm down, but she is full on going,
okay, I think there's a possibility we're gonna need a little medical assistance down here as well. I'd call, but my hands are full.
Dr. Jeshries are sending a team up, Lieutenant.
That's great. Are you gonna calm down? Look, whatever's going on, no one's here to hurt you. Nothing is going on here that's gonna get at you. Just take some deep breaths and stop screaming, please. I guess if she's gonna remain feral, then I guess I'm gonna.
Could you give me anything of a medicine investigation notice check, depending on what you like, and tell me what it is.
Investigation. I'm good at that. That's a 5.
5, yes, good, yes. You see that, you know, the Acadians, they are sort of quite a pale people. They have sort of shimmering iridescent veins on the sides of their heads, and they have very pale eyes to match. You can see that the veins on the side of her head are vivid and pronounced against her skin. Like, they're still that kind of iridescent pastel tone. They're not sort of bold colors, but they are very prominent now, and you can see that some of the veins have indeed even extended across the eye. Like, the veins are already there normally, but you can't tell because that's how eyes work. But like, it is quite stark. She's no stronger or better at throwing you off, but she seems willing to like contort herself around to try and get out of your hands in a way that you would not expect from someone who wasn't desperate. I'm not going to keep role playing it, but
like,
she is still struggling.
Vance can keep a decent hold on her, like he's trained in this, and if she's, and his goal is making sure that she does not probably more accidentally hurt herself right now is going to be his bigger concern. But if necessary, then he's just going to hang on to her until, if she doesn't calm down, she's probably going to need sedating. Like,
yeah, like the medics start flooding in. Some of the others seem to be able to be calm, but many of the Theocadians require sedation. Like, again, the medics come in and are sort of sorting things out around, but the shot is very much focused on Vance dealing with this specific situation. And as kind of the calm spreads around the room, you are sort of left with a number of unconscious people who are being slowly removed from the space, a couple of people who are being extracted to the security, and some people who are just looking confused and like walking around with a kind of, you know, like a bomb's gone off, that kind of what.
Okay. All right. Now, is anybody able to explain to me what happened? Please.
A fairly old betazoid sits up and just goes, it all happened very quickly. I could not say what the inciting incident was, Lieutenant. 1 minute, everyone was anxious, as if on the cusp of something. I could tell many of the Theocadians had been concerned or foggy. Many of my own kind also. I do not recall when the first punch was thrown, but at that moment it just felt like the logical thing to do, you know?
Uh-huh. All right. Now I get the tensions are high. It doesn't appear, and Vance is going to look around to seem to confirm what he's about to say. It doesn't look as if anyone has been particularly injured. I would request that I would request statements from each of you on what happened, how it felt, and what you recall. I'd like you to please, I'll have security officers sit down with each of you to try to secure this, and then I'm going to ask you to return to your quarters and get some rest. And we'll deal with the people who are suffering a little bit more now. All right?
Yes, thank you, Lieutenant. Lieutenant,
Yeah.
are you quite well?
I'm fine. Thank you for your concern.
Your mind is ticking.
I'm running security for this conference right now, so I'm sure that I do have a lot on my mind.
No, ticking, like a metronome.
I am not fully biologically human.
Oh,
I
how
have
very, how very interesting.
I have certain implants which might be influencing your read on me.
Well, who's to say I'm to be trusted at all, given how I behaved?
Thank you.
No, thank you. And that very distinctively unsettling Betazoid stare follows you as you leave.
Guess I'm going to go to where the Theocadians are with the doctor.
As you're doing that, strange. You have been getting on all day.
Mhm.
You are having a lean and a cup of tea and an almighty time. As you get an alert that that arrives and then vanishes very quickly about a pressure in the air system. But it seems to have completely righted itself by the time you bring up your pad and get up the schematics to check. And sort of as you're holding your tea and holding your pad and having a think, you can see Lieutenants Vance and Zal walking at top speed towards the med bay. Yes, I've decided this is my dream team of this session.
Everything all right?
Oh no, everyone went completely crazy and tried to beat each other up. Diadide went feral, so...
Oh no. Not this kind of thing again.
Afraid so.
It's mostly been afflicting the Theocadians, most primarily, so I want us to check them. But also affect some Betazoid and some Romulans and, telepathic species or species with some level of it. That's not a crazy gesture, that's a brain gesture.
That's a brain gesture, yeah. I understood.
I did feel something.
Yeah?
When I went into that room, yeah. I was able to shrug it off, but Mandorians.
Also,
Andorians
some level of telepathic.
Okay. So something's affecting everybody who's got even minor telepathic capabilities, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall the Theocadians being empathic or telepathic or...
That's true, yeah.
Well, but good news is they're more affected, so we'll probably be able to discern whatever's going on with them better.
Yeah, great news.
However, something's messed up.
Something's messed up.
We got a meeting tonight.
Oh.
If you're free, Leggett Elrad.
Oh.
Did
he say what, or is it another mysterious, just come to a meeting and we'll tell you when you get there?
He wants to reveal some accusations. He thinks he's on to a winner.
I've gathered you all in this room to tell you who the murderer is.
Yeah.
Is that what he's doing?
Apparently so.
Right.
No.
Really must fix that squeak at some point.
Why is Zephyr manifesting here?
Hey,
The hollow emitters.
I've had a thought, and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Room full of people with slightly telepathic capacity, going crazy.
Mm.
Has anyone had eyes on Talandra lately?
Nope.
No.
But no Vulcans were in that.
Hmm.
But that is still a worrying thought. Because that's just one room.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll check in after this.
I guess we'll check in after this and also find out what it is that caused them to suddenly break out into a brawl.
Yeah, hopefully. It just apparently seemed like the thing to do.
Did it?
Yeah.
Right. And Strange looks really uncomfortable with the thought that that's like the kind of thing that's happening here.
Fuckery! My least favourite thing!
As the scene changes to you sat in a sort of a medical room. All around, the very strained medical staff are running around at sort of top speed. Lieutenant Strange recognizes that they're doing what he does, understaffed and overworked. But you are sat, as a doctor is checking over, with Architect Erasmus, who is a much older Theocadian and is sat on the edge of an examination table as the doctor goes, I have to apologize. None of the others are in a fit state to be interrogated, and I'm not fully certain the architect is either.
Interviewed, questioned, interviewed. Like, we're not at interrogation.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, you're welcome to, but I'm...
Thank you. And you've not found anything odd?
No, on the contrary. The architect was the first one that was brought in.
Please keep looking.
We are.
I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to go talk to that architect, even if I'm telling that doctor how to do their job, because I'm the chief of security.
Who the medicine? Righto.
I already was doing the medicine, but sure.
Architect? How are you feeling?
Quite well. Thank you. And
Uh-huh.
you?
I've had better days, but I'm doing fine, thank you. Can you please tell us what happened down at the habitat ring?
Salt slice. I got it in specially.
Izzy, you need to pitch your voice a level lower with this guy.
Sorry, everyone. My mic hates my feminine tones. Mike hates my feminine tones.
God's sake, Michael.
Help yourself to salt slice. I got it in specially.
Thank you. But if we can stick with just the facts, please. The habitat.
The habitat.
Section.
Yes. You know, I think I got hit in the face.
That's terrible. What happened before that? Before you were hit, architect.
It's my mother's birthday.
And what happened down at the habitat section?
Oh, is it that? So I came out of my quarters.
Yeah.
And my mother said that we should get salt slicing. So I said I would go to the shops. But then
And
you
at
see,
the habitat section.
yes, the habitat section. Because you see, the desert was only orange on the weekend. So I looked at the desert and thought, it can't be like this. It must be like that. And then I went to see Arcadia, and Arcadia said that I ought not to have gone in the first place.
You got hit, architect.
Is that why my jaw hurts?
Yes, you recall the incident.
Yes.
What happened
When?
when you were hit?
I was hit?
All right.
Oh, from the earthquake. Yes.
No.
No.
The Wraith Moon, you see, it caused earthquakes, and Starfleet were rather marvelous.
You know,
Architect, I'm not that familiar with the Akkadian physiology or psychology.
Oh, don't worry about it. I forgive you.
Thank you. Do your people have any telepathic or empathic capabilities, latent or otherwise? No, that was advanced classes.
I rather think I'd like to.
Okay.
Perhaps if the weather's better later.
All right, Architect. Thank you for your time.
No, you're quite welcome, Captain. You're quite welcome.
Phenomenal.
Next time, we really must try the tea.
Super.
yes.
Super.
Okay. Well, he's been in the head pretty hard.
I know they got a beef with telepaths, but that doesn't mean that they don't got some themselves.
Oh, and Captain?
Architect?
That's you.
You will tell her that I said hi, won't you?
Of course, Architect.
Such a nice woman.
Well,
Right, I guess we gotta wait until...
I've
This
never been that
fucked.
hit that hard. Never ever been hit that hard.
Until this gets unfucked.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering how much of that is from the blow to the head, and how much is from whatever it is that just scrambled everybody's heads.
We scrambled the Theocadians, and I'm still only making assumptions that we're dealing with something telepathic, but how do you track that with a telepath?
Not necessarily just with a telepath. Something has to have been done to do this.
Uh-huh.
There will be a device somewhere.
There's a
That is
person
not-
somewhere.
Do you know of any races that have got telepathic capabilities such that they themselves, without using any kind of device or object or anything like that, could scramble the heads of an entire dream of people in one go like that?
I don't look. I'm not an expert on telepathy, but I'm not.
No,
Maybe it takes a team of. It could be this. This might not be. It might be a device, but
It's something we can looking for some kind of device or evidence that some kind of device has been used is something that it is safer for us to look for as well, because getting a telepath involved to look for potential
includes
Clues of
potential
blood.
exposure.
then, and that's not a brain gesture this time, that's a crazy gesture this time.
All right.
Use the cat.
Really ought to fix those hollow emitters. I don't know how the Iskandar is beaming across
Yeah, he's gonna go.
the cat.
I want him to yell.
He's such a good boy.
So you all are faced with a dilemma, but you are more importantly faced with an upcoming meeting.
Mm-hmm.
As the time is getting on in the day, do you decide to go, or are you telling someone else beforehand of your going?
Oh, we're going.
Oh, we're just going.
The genre demands we just go.
Wonderful.
Why would we tell people where we're going
It's
to go
us,
and be
the
murdered?
boys. We go to the meeting times.
Get the sack! Get the sack!
I mean, it's a sack for the security lads. For me, I just get put in a bin, since it's long been established that sad boys just go in the bin.
Bin time, sad boys.
Bin time for sad boys. Like Casey's already been put in a bin and kicked down the stairs by a bunch of Klingons.
So
He forgot about that bit because that happened after the third time you played Blood Rain.
So as the scene changes, you are left looking concernedly at the slew of unconscious and the unconscious Theocadians and various other, as you have possibly guessed, distantly telepathic
races who are recovering from minor injuries. The scene cuts. It's a hard cut to the three of you sat at the end of that table, facing the Cardassians. Gul Arkan is not present.
Mm-hmm.
But Legate Elrad sits there and has a drink and is sat observing the three of you. Forgive me for the clandestine nature of the meeting once more, but this information has come priority.
Of course.
This information will likely become more public relatively soon, but I felt that it was perhaps polite to give you the chance to get ahead of it.
Okay.
I have here a data card brought to me by the captain of the Kajik, which was the ship accompanying the Corvus. They downloaded a certain quantity of security information regarding the murderers of Justice Bajorans. He sets the chip down and the screen appears. It is a not best quality sort of hollow image or whatever of what went down, and the angle is not superb, but you all clearly see the bright blast from the disruptor. Mercifully, you see the shots, you feel the impact, but it is not like a graphically close-up display of what happened. It's definitely slightly off screen. And then a figure is running away, and the shot pauses on the face of a very handsome young man with fair hair and a sort of determined expression. It obviously pauses at the exact right moment that it's very clear, and Legate Elrad checks his pad and says, "Therein your murderer." He is a low-level dissident and agitator who was not previously known to us. This does not seem to be the modus operandi of the people of this area to have committed such atrocious violence. Therein, I believe, the source of your problems.
Assume you can present us with a copy of this so we can try to identify him.
He has already been identified.
Yeah?
As?
Yeah. His name is Vitaly Burov. He is resident of Rakoya Minor, one of the worlds known as the Miners. They are a string of locations which contain many former Maquis sympathizers. I do not believe that the Maquis has been reformed, but clearly this young man has some opinions. He is also the elder brother of your chief medical officer, Dr. Arkady Burov. 5 days before the death of Justikar Rivoran, your chief medical officer had a conversation with their brother.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We believe certain information was shared, given that the necessary information was revealed that could not have been known outside of Cardassian High Command.
Which necessary information?
Regarding schedules, codes, access,
they should not have been able to locate, let alone access this facility.
And you think?
Certainly not if they are low-level members of the miners.
And you think
But you
Dr.
think that-
Burov had access
No,
to this level of information
no, but I believe that information or technology was passed along.
based on
Based on the fact that a high-ranking Starfleet officer had contact with a murderer and terrorist 5 days before he committed a murder of a Starfleet diplomat.
our ranking is not accurate.
Did they have officer clearance?
Junior officer clearance
Of course.
of a starship which has had no involvement in the activity related to
No.
the ambassador. I'm
But
sorry.
a vessel
Megan
that
Elrod.
has had very close connections with a known dissident and terrorist of Cardassian origin, Lieutenant Vance.
You're right. You're right. A family member of Dr. Burov is responsible for this. So obviously Dr. Burov is culpable. So why ain't we arresting you for your son?
You
Leggett?
are being needlessly obstinate, Lieutenant Vance.
That just makes two of us, Leggett.
I brought you this information in the spirit of reconciliation.
You have
may do
brought
with it
me
as you wish.
the identity of the killer, very likely.
If you do not think that a conversation had in secure channels 5 days before a murder is significant, then I do not know what to tell you.
Aware of this conversation?
Information was passed to me from the crew of the Trador.
And how is the crew? No, the conversation between Dr. Burov and Dr. Burov's brother.
The information was passed to me by the crew of the Trador.
Well, how did the crew of the Trador have any information of what happened on the Iskandar about a week ago?
I did not ask, but here is the data I have. You'll find it verifiable.
I will look into this, because considering that this appears to be your only evidence implicating Burov, this Burov character, the brother,
Vitaly Burov.
Vitaly Burov, but you've not had access to his ship.
His ship is currently being tracked, but
His
he
ship
left.
is currently being tracked, but he left. Then how the hell do you have communications records of a Starfleet ship like the Iskandar?
You are entirely taking this the wrong way. You have decided to take offense to me from the very beginning when I have done nothing but help you.
That's bullshit, and we both know it. You put Arcan in this room to fuck with me, so...
And I took him out to unfuck with you, Lieutenant. You have been given the information you like. I suggest you do with it as you wish.
I will check it. But if you think this is a smoking gun, then you need to be hiring better investigators.
You have a terrorist sympathizer aboard your vessel, who I notice is not here at this conference.
Yeah. Was that supposed to be a implication of guilt?
A week ago, they were due to go on leave to attend a festival on the pleasure world of Riza.
Diabolical.
They are not documented ever having arrived at Riza.
Now that is a security concern for me, and that's one I'm going to look into. However,
there is only so much circumstantial evidence that you can decide to ignore before it becomes...
I'm going to look into this, and I'm going to look into how you got information of the comms off the Iskandar. And if you want to pull your head out of your ass and look at Cardassia's own culpability in this anytime soon, that would come great. But I'm not going to be tied up chasing after whatever shadows that you throw at me, Elrod.
Lieutenant Zal, I apologize that given the deeply personal nature of this crime, that your chief of security has decided to act in this way.
I can only assure you, girl, No.
Leggett.
Leggett. He doesn't make that mistake. Leggett. That my chief of security has nothing in this instance to apologise for.
As you say.
All right, so now that's all three of us who've attempted to worm under the skin of in this conversation or in past conversations. So, next time you want to try to have these attempts to cooperate with Starfleet, I'd recommend trying to do it with a little bit more of an honest approach.
Of course. I look forward to hearing from your captain. We are done here, gentlemen.
Oh. Thank you, Elred.
If you leave.
And we leave.
Leave. Okay, so security speaks to the Iskandar, find out what it is that they are getting their information from.
Yeah, Vance is looking at the data that he's got.
Can I get empathy checks from both of you, please?
Oh, that's a flat 0 on the dice. Do I have points in empathy
2 on the
as the boy?
dice, so that's a 5.
Where's the boys? Numbers. Oh, that's a 3 on the dice.
Okay, so I imagine.
The 3 in total. Sorry.
Oh, no offense, Strange. I imagine that Vance notices this, given Vance's stealth. But the two of you have immediately, you've got your you have your pads. You're talking. You're passing information. You're looking at data chips. It is only about 10 paces away from the Cardassians' quarters that you realise that Zal is about 8 steps behind you.
Turn back.
Turn around.
Zal.
Forgive me. I'm processing.
Uh-huh.
I'm processing.
Okay.
What are you processing?
I've just seen the footage of the death of my husband.
All right. Please walk with us, though, and get away from this enclave.
He steps a little closer. The day began with Tilandra being implicated in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're having it thrown at Burrow
Paris,
too.
take
No.
a slow breath.
Nothing has realistically been thrown at Arcady. And fairly convincing stuff has been thrown at their brother. But unless Dr. Burov is somehow a master spy who can get Cardassian information,
Why
Yeah,
haven't they
along.
gone to Riser?
That's something we're going
that's
to
a
look
different
into.
problem.
That's something we're going to look into. Right now, we're getting away from the situation. And I'm not going to lie, right now, after what's been happening on board, I think that you should work through and not dwell too much if you're suddenly being hit by a wave of emotion.
It's
However,
nothing, it's nothing like in the room, if that's what you're thinking.
I don't know what it's going to feel like. But there's a lot of possible things which can go wrong right now. I'm not saying that anything about your feeling is irrational. I'm just saying that it's something to right now process, let go, swiftly, especially right here.
Okay.
Because right now that son of a bitch was absolutely working from a playbook to deliberately try to fuck with each of us. He didn't get around to Adam, but he did it last time. Now, I don't know if that's just how he does business. Or if, frankly, he is actively trying to distract us. So he's one kind of son of a bitch or another.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
He turns and he makes for the Cardassian enclave.
Yeah, Vance has already been like squared up and ready for something, and he is going to go to grab and like if he needs
Strange gonna also try and grab Fazal. Adam's probably not going to do an awful lot here. He'll just be sort of, hanging off himself.
Vance is prepared enough that he is not going to make this a contest of strength.
Michael, what is your intention with this gesture? Is it that you wish for Zal to be escorted out by his buddies, or is it that you wish to throw hands?
Throw hands.
Quite remember.
His mindset and the overriding sensation for him right now is completely hostile. I imagine the moment someone makes contact with him, given everything he's been through, there will be an initial surge of violence.
Okay.
It's reactive, but it's there.
Roll me fight. Kath, roll me fight. Roomba, I guess roll me fight, but roll me fight. But
Yeah. I will happily roll fight.
That's a critical success.
Nice.
That is a 3, I think.
I'm on a 5.
Yep, that's a 3.
I'm on a 10.
Jesus.
Fuck.
So I think what happens is that Zal, hands go. Zal goes to throw back. Strange is thrown off in that kind of,
Yep.
he's fine. He finds his footing, but it's one of those. Okay, I get.
Thrown into a wall briefly, but
I am very out of my depth here. Zal takes a swing at Vance, who, despite my earlier concerns that I didn't want Vance to be dwarfed at any point, is full on Starfleet chief of security. Zal is haymaking at him, and he just, ducks, twists it into a strength, into a contest of skill and dexterity over strength, and just goes, come on now.
Vance was ready for something like this and has fought wars against Klingons and Jem'Hadar. He is quite adept at dealing with people who are stronger than him.
and the dice back that up.
And I think what we see is that, again, as the camera's pulling back, in whoever is directing the politics of peace loves the slow pullback ends of scenes of you can see Zal tussling, Vance has him in a sort of pacifying grip, and Strange is doing the come on, buddy, let's think about a thing.
Calm jazz hands.
As they're pulling out, and
Soothing jazz hands.
And as the evening light is around, and it's clearly kind of getting on for nighttime, and the three of them are having this tussle in a sort of abandoned stretch of walkway, we can see the camera pulls in to a different part of the station, which is an abandoned, bit of sort of engineering-y type hallway, lit only by the faint glow of sort of LCARs on panels and emergency lighting. And we see a device clipped onto the wall that is making faintly ominous lights and noises. It is high up in a high corridor. And as the camera moves down, leaning her hands against the wall and looking as if she is about to pass out, staring up at this object, is Lieutenant Commander Talandra. Fade to black.
Oh no. Oh boy.
Ruh-roh.
The crew of the Iskandar will return next
Nope.
week after.
Week after.
Will return December 15th for the Politics of Peace 4. Such politics, such peace.
Such politics. Very peace. Wow.
God, if we don't get that done. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the calendar. Never mind.
But thank you everyone so much for your this was quite a whistle stop event. Lots going on.
I hope you had a good dramatic time. I like to think that I can still drop bombshells on these characters, even though there's stuff that you'll know out of character, not in character. I hope you enjoyed it too, or audience hours, delightful trash fam. I enjoyed very much that in our Discord, there have been some real choice memes going on. And also I'm enjoying everyone's theory crafting. Hello to all of you in the watch party at the moment. I hope you enjoyed it, watch partiers. And I do very much enjoy hearing everyone's wild theory crafting and theory smashing. Apologies again to Lieutenant Zal, who never has a good time. Lieutenant Zal is the O'Brien of this adventure. And congratulations to my MVP, Lieutenant Vance, who is a good chief of security, the best, does the things, such security, very boy. Yeah, do feel free to get in touch with us via our Discord or at ItchUCrew on Twitter. But speaking of people who are interested in what is going on, I'm going to give thanks to this week's and indeed this time's Patreons who support us over at patreon.com/ItUCrew. For some reason, I cannot extend out the column which contains people's names. So I am going to read only the names that are visible to me on the table, and you get to decide if that means you or not. So, brass bags in the chat, if you will, for Ken Poi, Kiwi Tok, Kosai, Eligos Al, Liz Murphy, Michael, Andre Lucas J, Lou Sucky, Henry Purr, Caffeine Kitty, Hobbs _, Mike Kilb, Amy C, James, Mike Feel, Michael, and of course, everybody's famously named and favoritely named member of the Trash Crew, Helena. Thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in a fortnight. And in the meantime, if you want to see more of these delightful faces, I look forward to seeing you this Sunday for the next adventure of the Gentleman's Strangers, 4 p.m. British time in the UK time. Much love to you all. Have a wonderful